Welcome to day 2 of the PHLY Sixers NBA Draft Show as we are live back in studio here with Derek Bodner, Kyle Neubeck. I'm Devon Givens. Brianna's producing. Chris is in here making sure we have everything all situated on the social media side. We're good to go for a few hours for day number 2 with the Philadelphia 76ers holding the 41st overall selection in round number 2. The new format for the NBA again, round 1 and round 2 now separated, no longer on the same night. And now we have a 4 p.m. start time for round number 2. And with round number 2 getting ready to get underway on the clock, that would be the Toronto Raptors to tip things off. So we'll see some decent names, at least right now, still on the board right now, beginning with Toronto, but then we can go a little bit further with the rest of the teams. And once again, the Philadelphia 76ers will be about 11 picks in at pick number 41. We'll see where that goes. The Bronny James story, where does he end up? Does he end up anywhere?
As I see Bronny James on our TV in here, as you speak.
Does he go to any place other than the Los Angeles Lakers? Is there any shot that he doesn't get drafted by the Lakers if he's there at 55? We have a lot of questions, but we're going to begin as we start things off on day 2. We appreciate everybody joining us. If you joined us last night, greatly appreciate it as always. And here with us with our draft coverage, we are presented by our great friends from Rothman Orthopedics with the water bottle. Have the book here for some notes if we need it. And we are presented again by Rothman Orthopedics here with our draft coverage all week long here on PHLY Sixers podcast. But we want to start with Jared McCain and get some thoughts from the fellas, get some thoughts from all of you of sleeping overnight on this whole thing, maybe going back and doing some research on his high school, his collegiate career at Duke, and just maybe reading up, looking at some videos and seeing how that may have changed your mind, or did you stay the same? Do you feel worse now that you've been able to sit on it now that he's been a member of the Philadelphia 76ers for a little bit? So Derek, I'll start with you, man. As we start this one off on day number 2, do you feel the same? Do you feel better, or do you feel a little bit worse about what the Sixers did last night?
I think for the most part, I would say I feel the same. Like the aspects of his game that I liked,
Dr.
I still
Spock
like.
feels the same. I'm shocked.
And the aspects that concern me, I'm still concerned about. And, I think what I would say is I like him as a prospect probably more than I came across last night in my initial reaction. I'm concerned about his fit, and that's really where a lot of it comes down to. I do like the fact, I trust his shot a lot. I think he does a real good shot or a real good job of pre-shot footwork. I think he's on balance. I think he can pull up on a dime in transition, both with the ball and, filling a lane and off the catch. I think he's pretty good at relocating and getting his balance set. I think he's got some, physical tools that I do like in terms of his strength and his ability to use that in games, both defensively, on the glass, even finishing around in basket a little bit, even though he doesn't elevate all that well. He's able to absorb contact. I like all of that. And that's an archetype of player that I generally like. I value shooting a lot, and I trust his shot translating a lot. And because of that, I'm not completely out on him, even though, like I said, I might have come across as disappointed last night. But if this were a different team with a different point guard, specifically a taller point guard.
If this was Miami, for example, and Jimmy
and
Butler is your primary initiator.
I would feel I would say the Sixers got a steal at that point. I think if this was a team agnostic thing, I would have him higher than 16. It's not like a huge steal. He still probably falls somewhere in that 10 to 16 range because he does have some things capping his upside a little bit as a scorer. The first step, the handle, all of that. I don't expect him to come out and have an all-star career. I think there's almost very little chance of that happening, but I think there's a very high chance of him being a role player, and specifically that role in terms of shooting and off-ball floor spacing and gravity is one that I value a lot. But I do worry a little bit. This might not be the right team for him. And I say that entirely because of Tyrese Maxey. I think it's a real good fit next to Joel Embiid. But if you're going to tell me his upside is capped at maybe 15 to 20 minutes per game because I have defensive concerns over whether he can play next to Tyrese Maxey for more than that, and specifically whether he can play next to Tyrese Maxey in the playoffs, that's where my concern almost entirely lies. And look, he does a lot of stuff in terms of trying to make the most of his imperfect physical tools. I think the strength is important there. I think the buy-in, I think the, just knowledge and being aware is all there. And that's all important things to overcome his lack of physical tools. But when you are 6'2" with a 6'3" wingspan, there's just, like I said last night, there's only so much you can overcome. And I think if you were the only small guard on the floor, you could project a bigger role for him because there is Tyrese Maxey here. And because Tyrese Maxey's not going anywhere, it's tough for me to project more than 15 to 20 minutes per game. It's tough for me to completely buy in on him being a playoff player. And because of that, I'd probably it probably comes across as me being lower on him than I actually am when I'm just concerned about the situation.
So I feel like at this point, we've laid out the case or the skeptics case on McCain.
Yeah.
So on specifically on the defensive end, I'm going to lay out the optimist case. As Derek said right there, but we've also harped on already a couple of times, I do think the compete level is there on defense.
Yes.
Like he's someone that, especially late in the season, he improved as a defender at Duke, which, it's a good thing to see in a kid who's still pretty young coming in as a freshman. But I think the more I thought about it, the more I dug into some tape this morning just to, check my priors and whatnot. I think I have to get out of the mindset of, well, this guy can get picked on or this guy can get shot over by this player. You look specifically at Boston. Oh, how does he defend? Whether it's Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Derek White, Drew Holiday, all the big guys they have there. And you have to look more at the holistic team defense and like what can this guy contribute on the defensive end of the floor, and just as important, are they able to cover for whatever weaknesses he has in addition to whatever weaknesses he and Maxey might have together. And I do think if you look purely at off-ball awareness, rotations, help defense, the willingness to, like the understanding of when to jump in a passing lane, when to stray a little bit off of a certain offensive player, and just having the game intelligence to recognize matchups and move himself around the floor in that way, those are all strengths, I think. I think he thinks the game at a high enough level. And if you look at it as, look, Derek has harped on this offseason, and I agree with this. Ideal world, you improve the defensive versatility of the team enough that Joel Embiid is not asked to be superhuman pick and roll, drop defender, and a rebounder, and this and that. But if McCain is making proper reads, if he's getting to the right spots, if he's at least forcing teams to get into swinging situations, getting deeper into the clock by just beating guys to spots, at the end of the day, if he ends up in a bad matchup with 8 seconds on the clock, if they've forced a switch, the other team, and he gets blown past or a guy shoots over him, Joel Embiid is the human security blanket behind him. So I do think you don't want to put too much stress on him. You don't want to play Maxey and McCain heavy minutes together. And it's why I still agree with Derek. Like, is he the perfect fit? Do I believe in that long-term partnership with Maxey? Maybe not. But the more I thought about it, the more I think the off-ball and the attentiveness stuff matters as much, if not more, than one-on-one isolation type defense these days. And that's why the more I looked at how good he was there or how engaged he was there and how much you can see his intelligence translating, the less concerned I am with the defensive side of the ball. It's still a concern because he's not going to get any bigger, presumably. He's going to have to defend bigger guys most of his career. But I do love a lot of what I've seen from a preparedness and effort and energy standpoint.
Like I said, if a guy's going to overcome a 6'2" height with a 6'3" wingspan, like he does everything he could possibly hope for to try to overcome that. It's just like if he were one of the players that we've been talking about leading up the draft was Bub Carrington. Mm-hmm. If he was 6'4" with a 6'8" wingspan, I would be over the moon.
Yes.
And look, Carrington has more shot creation equity in his game. He has a quicker first step. He has more advanced handles. He gets to the middle of the floor better. I still think McCain is a lower upside offensive player. I'm fine with that. I've almost like I think there are some people concerned that he's not going to create enough or he doesn't have the star upside. And that's true. I agree with them, but I'm fine drafting a role player 16th overall. But if you were 6'4" with a 6'8" wingspan, I'd be over the moon with that role player. I think he could step in day one and contribute. Quite frankly, if he was 6'3" with a 6'5" wingspan, I would be, a lot more comfortable. It's just 6'2" with a 6'3". That's a lot to overcome.
You're giving up a lot.
Yeah, and I think he is, like I said, I think he's done what's in his power to try to overcome that. I think the skill set that he has, I trust, and I think is valuable. It's really just like if his wingspan was 3 inches longer and he was an inch taller, like I think this would be a home. But then again, if that were true, we probably wouldn't be there at 16.
Yeah. So where are you at on McCain having some time to think about it?
Same as I was last night when we were discussing it, and I went a little bit away from what you guys were saying, and nothing really has changed for me. You guys know I agree with you on the fact that there are limitations. Number one, he's a young player. None of them are perfect. And as I said last night, the height is not going to change. None of that is going to change unless he does have a growth spurt. And even if it is, what is it, maybe 6'3"?
And I wouldn't bank on that.
No, 6'3" at most. So that's where he would be. But I maintain that just from, and even doing a little bit more reaching out and talking, and there's, even when they like him, they still say it's just the Sixers fit that's the concern. Even at this particular size. He's a really good player. We read the Jay Billis part last night where he was speaking about how he's a winner and he's a competitor and all that. But when I also said that, as you laid out the case for him on the defensive end, Kyle, and you talked about all those things, it was similar to what I was talking about last night as long as he's out there competing and he's doing the stuff that he's supposed to do, and the height is not going to change because there's nothing they can do about that. He's not going to wear the shoes that we talked about Jimmy in the third person from Seinfeld to have a growth spurt on the floor in game. So he's going to be 6'2" every time out.
Yeah.
But he can be a little bit bigger when he does have, and I'd imagine that this is something that the front office is looking at, number one, for Tyrese Maxey, because he's the face of your franchise with Joel Embiid. He, too, at 6'2", he's a small guy. So you're going to put bigger players around him to not have him just, be a target all the time. He's going to be a target. Again, nothing you can do about it, but you can help him out with some bigger players around him with the wing, with the length, with that wingspan to help out defensively. So the same thing goes for McCain. And as we mentioned, he's not going to be out there for 40 minutes with Tyrese Maxey. You just have to win those minutes as best as possible if and when Nick Nurse decides, you know what, I'm going to go with these two small guards here, see how it works out. We saw a semblance of it when Cam Payne was out there. But I'm sure a lot of people will argue that even with Cam Payne's blazing speed, that they might feel a little bit better if they watched Jared McCain as a 16th overall pick, and Cam Payne was a first-round pick as well coming out of Murray State. But that's where I am. Nothing has changed. I still feel decently enough about it where, sure, I still would have liked Dalton Knecht because he did fall.
And to be clear,
however, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
However, I'm still good with McCain because he can play. And they don't have any talent on this roster. Knecht would have been the pick for me, and both of you mentioned it, Rich as well. But for McCain, knowing that he can play, he can do things, he can shoot at that 41% clip. Maybe it's going to be league average, 38, but all the intangibles that he has on that shot should translate to the NBA, and he's probably going to get some good looks when the ball swings to him. And that being said, now it's about the shot creation. Can those things get better because of the talk that he is a hard worker? You mentioned Sam Vecini a lot last night and looking at some of the things that he said about the prospects and their profile. And I saw Jonathan Wasserman, another longtime guy in the NBA who really looks at guys, and he said, look, I had him on my top 10 board. I understand he's small and he can't do a lot of things, but guess what? The things that he can do, they should translate into the NBA.
He can shoot the hell out of
leading with the shooting of the basketball overall, not just from beyond the three-point line. So not much has changed for me. Now it's about filling out the roster and making sure you have size around them where those two in particular can play on the floor maybe sometimes together, and you have wings and you have the human eraser behind you that will clean up a lot of stuff. And he's disciplined enough, Joel Embiid, we already know, to not get in foul trouble when things like that happen. It's not always on him to block every shot. Those guys at the point of attack have to be better in their defense where they cannot rely on Joel Embiid every time if and when the player, their assignment gets by them. So I'll stick with it. Definitely would have preferred Knecht, but I still like the player that they ended up with in general. Now it's up to them to see if this in fact works with Maxey and McCain when Nurse decides to call the number to have them both out there on the floor.
Yeah, and look, if they did draft Connect, like we would be sitting here because I honestly try. I think some people think I'm like always negative, but I try to bring up what I like and what I dislike.
It's just the way you talk.
It honestly is a little bit just the way I talk, but it's also like I want to bring up what I like, what I don't like, what I'm concerned about, what I'm excited about, so that all of you can maybe run that through your own filters and come to your own conclusions. I would be sitting here going like, all right, look, I like the fact that he's taller, more athletic, better first step, can elevate around the rim, but boy, his defense is a complete shit show.
Exactly.
And like I like Connect a little bit because I think he has a little bit more of upside, even though he's 23, upside offensively as more of a pure scorer. But his defensive effort, his defensive tools, he's been a really bad defender. Mm-hmm. So I think there are concerns. The concerns between McCain and Connect are very different. One of them is not making the most of his physical tools. The other one is making the most of the limited physical tools that he has. A lot of times I would rather buy into the latter archetype. I like a guy who's going to give you everything he has. And I do think McCain will do that. I think that shows up a lot on the glass. But like I said, there's just a functional limit to how much the 6'3" wingspan, I think, is a lot of what I struggle to overcome. And it's going to be tough against certain matchups in the playoffs, probably against a lot of matchups in the playoffs, to have him on the floor, even if he works out more than 15 to 20 per game. And look, a lot of the players who I liked ended up going right before the Sixers anyway. You're really talking about Connect. You're talking about Collier, and he fell very far. Yeah. So maybe there's something there we don't know about. Outside of that, there weren't a lot of players who I was really banging the drums for. So because of that, you get a guy whose skill set, like I said, I'm going to reiterate this. I really, really, really do value McCain's skill set and his primary skill set. And I believe in it translating. And I think one thing that we're starting to see here now, as a lot of the free agent options go off the board, or trade options are reportedly going off the board, is if you're going to win, Joel Embiid has to be the best player on the floor by a mile.
Yep. Yeah.
And having a true floor spacer, a guy with a ton of gravity, is one way to do that. So if McCain ends up popping and being able to find a way to succeed and stay on the floor defensively, then I think his skill set can help make Joel Embiid the best version of Joel Embiid. And that's important. That's not a small consideration at all.
Yeah, no, man. I mean, again, and we talked about so many others, just for argument's sake, as you just laid out the prospects that did go behind Jared McCain at 16, excluding Dalton Connect. If they were keeping the pick, was there anybody else? Because I know you didn't love Jacoby Walter.
Yeah,
you liked things.
I would take McCain over him.
Right. Yeah. So, you know, and that's just how it played out. Yeah. And with where we are and how things fell, Connect was really the only one. And that was, if not trading down and you're staying put, he was probably the best bet. And if he was on their top 10 board, you were there at the press conference last night at the practice facility, and they were talking. Of course, they talk about.
A GM would never over-exexaggerate where a player was on a board.
Yeah.
That would never happen.
So if he was on their top 10 board, my only question is, where was Dalton Connect? Was he 11? You know what I mean? But yeah, the guy's a decent player, good player, and if he is in fact, like they talk about, a hard worker, a winner, and we know about the three-point shooting, you just hope that it translates. And they put some size around him that it does not become a detriment to him for his career. We even mentioned a little bit of some of those lineups that we saw in Toronto with Kyle Lowry. We talked about that last night, and Fred VanVleet. The difference is they were both defensive-oriented, and they had bigger size. They were bulkier there.
Yeah.
But
and that is one thing that he has, though. Like McCain's strong,
sure,
especially for an 18-year-old. He's well developed physically.
Yeah. So and again, if they're going to do it, even if it doesn't necessarily fit with what we think Nick Nurse likes, we have at least seen something as a model with him as the head coach and doing it. Those are two different guys, two all-stars we're talking about. One here in this case, and you will see what happens with Jared McCain. But they've all had flaws. His flaw right now is the size and the wingspan, as we talked about. So the pick is the second round is underway. God, what took so long? Are they dragging this thing out?
They had like a 12-minute intermission before the draft even started, so that was...
What is going on? Taking so long to get this pick in. The Toronto Raptors, as we mentioned, on the clock. They select.
I was just about to say, so they put it up on the screen.
A bit of a surprise to start the second round off. Jonathan Magbo from San Francisco.
This guy's been on quite a journey the last 4 years.
Yeah,
he
so
played at Independence Community College in Kansas.
I love it.
Then he went to Northeastern Oklahoma A&M.
Love it.
Then he played his third year at Missouri State. He was still well, not a little used player. He played about 24 minutes a game there. And then this past year where he broke through, played for San Francisco out in the Western Coast Conference, had the average 14 points a game, 10 rebounds, nice double-double. It looks like, from what I can tell, I'm not going to pretend I've watched this guy play a minute of basketball, so I'm not going to lead the viewers astray.
Masai has, though.
He does feel like, looking at the profile, like this is such a Masai guy. He's a 6'8" guy who played center in college and can't shoot. So, just the thing that the Toronto Raptors needed is another one of those type of guys.
Taller Kevin Fareed. With some athleticism.
Good luck. It would have been... Everyone thinks I'm a Masai hater anyway. I might as well lean into it. It would have been even funnier for them to take Filipowski and really corner the market on white centers. That would have been
Kelly Olynyk.
Either way, I can't lose with the slander.
Yeah. So, can you name, Derek, the some San Francisco ball players coming out?
I know the best one ever.
I know the best. I agree with you. You know the best one, the Hall of Famer, of course.
Okay. Bill Russell.
Oh, okay.
Bill Russell.
The GOAT.
Okay.
Yeah,
Not the GOAT, but one of the GOATs.
Yeah.
Do you
The
have
winning
another?
GOAT.
Yeah.
You have another?
I don't know if I remember any
Local
other
product.
I don't know.
Family member of the guy that was also a local product who you don't necessarily love all that much, but you won't say a bad thing because he is deceased. So, yeah.
Was it
Kobe's cousin?
Oh, his cousin. I was
Yeah.
like, Jelly Bean didn't go
Yeah,
there.
John Cox.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I would have never gotten that.
Yeah. Went to San Francisco out there. Yes. Silly knowledge that I have when it comes to colleges and things
That's
like
why we
that.
don't want to play. Devon's been suggesting like we'll play a numbers game where it's like, hey, who's the best team you can make out of guys with like the jersey number 37? It's like, Devon, I don't know if I can name two of those guys.
Semi Ojeleye.
That's like not,
Boston Celtics.
It's like, not to bring up another station, but like Joe DeCamera cracks me up because he will be able to remember every obscure thing, and then I'm like, Joe, how many wings does a chicken have? And he's like, I have no idea. And it's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Yes.
I love him. I love Joe. One of my favorites.
Utah Jazz on the clock with pick number 32 in the second round. We'll let you know about that in just a bit.
Oh, there's an on-brand selection coming.
Well, you might know what that is. But this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. When life goes so fast, it's important to take a moment to celebrate your wins. Make the adjustments for the rest of the year. Therapy can help you take stock of your progress and set achievable goals for the next 6 months. So when you look at the summer, we're already in June. We're approaching July very, very quickly here. And as we do that, you're like, man, I missed out on this. I forgot about that. This is bothering me. I need to talk to somebody. Well, if you do need to do that and you're thinking starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule for whatever it is for you individually that you need to talk about. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. So you look at that, take a moment, BetterHelp.com/PHLY today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/PHLY. Again, the show is brought to you by BetterHelp.
We also want to make sure we tell you about TrueMark Financial, specifically this time with TrueMark Financial's Rewards Visa Credit Card. Earn rewards for each purchase using TrueMark Financial's Rewards Visa Credit Card and redeem them for travel and retail gift cards. Build credit through timely payments and low credit utilization. Enjoy fraud protection with features like zero liability. We also want to tell you about saving options with TrueMark Financial, specifically if you're maybe a second-round draft pick. You're coming into some money, but it's not forever money. You're gonna have to be wise with it.
Yep.
Not number one overall pick. They're pretty well set, but be smart with this one. TrueMark Financial has a traditional savings account, basic savings account offering a place to deposit funds, earn interest, and withdraw money as needed. There's also a money market account, which combines features of savings and checking accounts, offering higher interest rates and limited check writing capabilities, easy access to your money when you need it, and finally a certificate. Fixed long-term deposit account with a predetermined interest rate and maturity date, offering higher interest rates for locking in funds for a specific period. TrueMark Financial is federally insured by the NCUA and is an equal opportunity lender. For more information, visit truemark.com/PHLY.
So a quick news update that's on the broadcast that we are not listening to right now. This is via Adam Aronson, Sixers Adam, over at Philly Voice, said that Woj on ESPN said that the Utah Jazz with Markkanen are in a similar position to Brooklyn before they moved Mikal Bridges. They want to bring in players around Markkanen, but plenty of teams are interested. And then here's a direct quote. I don't think it's their intention to move him. End quote. Wow, I don't think.
Jamie is doing backflips right now.
As I say, Jamie Fretz.
Shout out.
Listener to the show, big fan of ours. Your time is now.
If Mikal and the Knicks have set this standard of what it's going to cost to get a player like that, if the Sixers weren't willing to do that, do you see them willing to do something along the lines of Lauri Markkanen? Yes, he's a former All-Star, and he provides the shooting ability that he does, and he fits perfectly between Maxey and Joel Embiid.
Yes.
Would they?
I think the
this is a
offensive
guy
fit
they would
is significantly
push in for.
better. Significantly. All due respect to your cousin, who's fantastic. The defense is obviously not nearly there. But in terms of just being I think he's an elite offensive fit next to both Tyrese and Joel, and then also next to both of them. And I think because of that, I do think I would be more willing to look, would I be comfortable giving up 6 picks? No. Which in this instance would be 5 picks in a swap, since that's you only have 5 first rounds. Well, that's including McCain. Otherwise, it's 4. Would I be comfortable? No, but we're seeing options evaporate pretty quickly, and he is an elite offensive fit next to both of them. But again, I don't love it because, like we talked about with Mikal, all right, you empty everything to get that. Well, how are you building out the rest of the roster? It's not like you're the Knicks.
That was the difference of what we were talking about last night. When you do make a trade like that for New York, the roster is already set, though.
Yeah, it would be very, very tough. Like, you don't have New York step. You don't have Brunson on a below-market contract. You don't have 4 more draft picks you can trade. All that's going to be real tough. There's no getting around that. But would I also be excited to watch Markkanen for hopefully the next 5 years with this core? Yeah, it would be nice just to get the third option in place for the long term and not have to it just feels like we're on a treadmill. We're always like, well, next summer, maybe we don't want Brandon Ingram now, but maybe at the trade deadline, there's a door, and who could be behind that door? It could even be Brandon Ingram. Like, it just feels like we have to get off of this treadmill at some point.
Now, the benefit, as we bring all that up, the benefit of Markkanen specifically, other than all the skill set stuff, is that right now he's only making $18 million.
Yeah.
And so this summer where you have cap space, if you acquire him with the pick treasure trove, you still can go out and get, whoever it might be, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. You can make a run at Klay Thompson. You could throw money at some of these guys that are not stars. They're not true needle movers, but they're high-level role players. I would lean toward KCP out of those guys. We've obviously had the Klay Thompson conversation on the show a couple times at this point. But that is one advantage for the Sixers here is that, okay, you get the elite fit third guy that will shoot the hell out of the ball, shoot it often, and make them often. Those are the 2 most important things. And then you still have, so Derek, if he's making 18, they have what?
46.
That's 40.
Well, they're down to 61 because of the draft pick.
Okay.
So
yeah.
40.
So 43-ish.
Yeah, 43. Yep.
Yeah.
So then let's say they sign KCP for 25. Then you still have another 18 on top of that. And that could turn into, if it's one interesting guy, if it's a couple, you do have some options. But to your point, once those picks are gone, you're boxed in. And so if you don't nail the subsequent series of decisions after trading for this guy, you could paint yourself into a corner very quickly where your only path out of it is completely blowing it up in a few years, which wouldn't be great.
Well, they just drafted his replacement if you trade him, as you said, on brand. They just replaced him with another white guy, the Utah Jazz, with the second pick, 32nd overall in the second round, Kyle Filipowski from Duke, another shooter. If he's not replacing Kelly Olynyk, he's replacing maybe Lauri Markkanen in that starting lineup, Derek.
We'll see. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm still very skeptical.
So their draft
But then
pick,
again, I was skeptical about Mikal before it happened too, so we'll see.
So their draft picks so far from day 1 to day 2 now are Cody Williams, Isaiah Collier at 29, and now they come right back and get Kyle Filipowski, players that we thought were going to be
fill
top
the white
25.
guy quota.
Well, I was going to say they're doing a really good job of getting, I think, versatile defenders. So you had to go get Filipowski.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Can't have too many versatile players.
But going into it, looks like top 25 players, all of them, and they just landed 3 of them. So Danny Ainge.
No, they haven't. I think they had a good
Not a
first
bad-
round.
yeah.
I think they had a good first round.
Yeah, absolutely. So
And I'm not, like we talked about Filipowski. I don't think any of us are necessarily huge fans, but I remember Kyle specifically and myself. But he was certainly a first-round talent who fell, so it's good on them to take a chance.
Yeah, good value there. Milwaukee picked 33 in the second round, taking Tyler Smith. Kyle, we talked about him just briefly before we got things started as a name that we were going to discuss. Well, he's off the board.
There is a 0.0% chance Doc Rivers will even know who he is, let alone play him. I think so I'm not huge on Tyler Smith on any team that's trying to compete right now. He is a long-term project guy. Look, the upside case for him is 6'9", 7'1" wingspan, and he looks like a projectable shooter, and that's going to be enough. The tape that I watched of him, he seems like a disastrous headless chicken defender. I also think he's going to need to he's got to play at least some minutes as a 5, as like an undersized 5. And I don't think he's shown the instincts there as in the like cat and mouse game as a pick and roll defender. He lunges, so he has all the normal young big traits of like over aggressive, over pursues, takes some silly fouls, but then he doesn't make up for that in other ways as of yet. He also needs to get a lot stronger. Like he's a guy that if he's going to be a full-time front court guy, and I absolutely think that's the case, he has to bulk up because he's going to get pushed around pretty heavily at the next level.
Feels a little bit like more wing-oriented Paul Reed. Hearing you say
little
that.
bit, yeah. So if he could reliably shoot and be a straight line driver, that changes the projection pretty dramatically. I just don't think, from people I've talked to and the little that I've watched, I haven't seen much off the bounce ability. I don't think he's a playmaker, and so that's maybe he becomes a stretch 4 with some flexibility to play some small ball 5. He's good athlete, good size, all that, but still kind of learning how to play basketball, it seems like. So we'll see. He's the antithesis of somebody Doc Rivers would play as a teenager.
Well, he does not yet have an AARP card, so he's out.
Portland Trailblazers are on the clock, 34. Then San Antonio, 35. Indiana at 36. Some decent names left on the board from Tyler Kolek or Kolek. I keep saying I don't know.
I say Kolek. I don't know.
Yeah, Kolek. Tyler Kolek, Johnny Furphy, Adam Bona, Cameron Christie, Tyler Smith now off the board. So we'll see where some of these players fall. Sixers pick at 41. The draft is moving as late as the start as they got. We'll see where things go. When you talked about that 12-minute intermission, Kyle, as I was peeking at the screen while we were talking and then getting things going, I saw a lot more of Bronny James than anyone else when knowing that he's probably going to go a little bit later. So it
appears we have a trade, by the way.
Oh, go for it.
Jake Fisher reporting Portland is trading this pick, number 34, to the New York Knicks for 3 second-round picks. And with pick 34, Kolek is going off the board.
Another guard.
Yeah.
Now, he's different than the type of guards that they do have on the roster, but a player that we've talked about. And what do you think? New York?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about him quite a bit. Look, I think the passing is real, and you're going to want to put the ball in his hands. Part of my concern here is that he's another short guard who I don't necessarily want to have the ball in his hands too much, because you've got a pretty good one here in Tyrese Maxey, and I don't think Kolek, as much of I think he's a little bit similar to McCain, that he's going to give you all the effort he has. There's just a lot of physical limitations. But I even think before, when we talked about this, I think we mentioned New York as maybe a good spot for him.
Yes.
So I think this makes a lot of sense. Like, I do think the passing is legitimate.
Mm-hmm.
I think the shot is there. I think he can get downhill, even though he's not a great athlete. He's going to give you everything he has defensively. It's just there's physical limitations.
Yeah. I think, given that Brunson's going to be playing 38, 40 minutes a game, you only need a backup point guard to give you about 10 on a good night or an average night for Tom Thibodeau. Led the NCAA in assists per game. He's a lefty, which, as we said on the show previously, everybody loves a lefty when you can dribble a little bit.
I am convinced that defenders struggle with lefties because they just forget. I remember watching this with Thad Young. I'm like, He's not like he's pretty quick, but he doesn't have all that advanced handle. You don't have to really guard him out in the perimeter, but he gets by people all the time because I legitimately think some defenders, not all of them, some defenders more than they should just freaking forget.
Yeah, but so in a 10-minute per game role, a guy who can be kind of the prototypical game manager type point guard on a team that is now loading up on the wings, where OG's limitation primarily is shot creation. Mikal, you want to be able to get some easier baskets for him where he doesn't have to do as much as he was doing in Brooklyn. And so getting to play off of Brunson, having a guy who can, just run the offense and make life easier for those guys. Like that's for a team that is now already kind of set up a win now type of player and a guy who has a clear skill set that works for them. I think it's a very solid move for them.
think when we were evaluating him at 16, that's what we said was like, he's probably only a backup point guard. You're only going to play him those 10 to 12 minutes, which at 16 was a waste. But at 34, yeah, it's fine.
And if he can play right away, ideally you would like to have Miles McBride off ball and allow him to do his thing with the scoring. And this takes some pressure if Kohler can get on the floor and play right away and contribute. Again, we talked about it. Now this was the playoffs, so this is a little bit different, but they had to make a trade for Alec Burks because they needed some more ball handling, some more help there. And he's a combo guard. When you look at this guy, his toughness, his ability to run a team, his IQ, and he's out there on the floor, he's a smart player. And the passing, as the guys have said, it's real. And he can shoot. He has a nice soft touch when he gets into the paint with that. And he's a strong body, so with the toughness, he will put his shoulder into your chest to try to create some space and get that little floater off. And as you guys said, people don't know how to defend lefties. So since they don't know how to defend lefties, man, that guy can get that little soft touch there and see how it goes. So, I mean, we saw a tough guy here who was undrafted and has made a really good name for himself for a team that'll be on the board here shortly in the Indiana Pacers with TJ McConnell and how he's made the most of what he is spilling it all before he retires. That guy is leaving it all on the floor. And I'm not saying that he is that, but he is a tough guy out there on the floor. Plays some tough Big East basketball too. Played in some good games, some big games there. And he just also played for Shaka Smart, who is a very good coach. Knows how to coach these guys up and get them prepared. So San Antonio Spurs on the clock right now at pick number 35. This selection, it looks like, is about to be in. And I have not seen it, so I don't know, just to be clear.
It's a good name.
Oh, your guy.
Johnny. My guy.
Johnny, the shooter.
Yeah, I mean, he's the guy. He looks like he's 11 years old. He's skinny.
I just like the name, Furphy.
He can shoot the ball, though.
Yes.
That's so. I don't think the percentages were that great, but it's the variety of.
He does look like he's 12.
Dude, I told you, he looks like a little
I've
kid.
seen him, but as they just showed him again, he looks like he's still there, right there.
Oh look, man, that guy's gonna play for an NBA team. No, so yeah, I mean, he's got good height, and eventually, when he fills out his frame and goes through puberty, I think he's got some real potential as an off-ball shooter, off-ball type of weapon.
Look at where he's going.
I feel like I've said this. A lot of guys in this class who are shooters, I guess as shooting is becoming much more of a premium skill, a lot of good relocators in this class. Like I think he's a good relocation shooter. I also think from what I read and what I heard, he bought into just doing like whatever I need to do on a given night. Like I don't care that if I take 3 shots or 13 or whatever it is, he'll do the dirty work type things. Now, can he do the dirty work with the slight frame that he's carrying at the NBA level? Probably not. So that's going to take some time. I think he's going to get hunted on switches pretty hard in the immediate term. The hope would be as he puts on weight, because he's pretty tall. He's got
even
some good
still,
size.
though, I don't think he moves his feet all that.
No,
great on the
I mean,
perimeter.
look, that's going to be a problem. And as a shooter, I also think he's maybe not exclusively a catch and shoot spot up guy, but have not seen a lot from him as a pull up shooter, which is why he probably fell to the early to mid 30s rather than where people thought he might go, which is anywhere from, I think, like 18-ish to end of the first round. So a bit of a fall for him.
And this is a pick. Originally, it was a Toronto pick. The Sixers had it. The Sixers traded it as part of the Buddy trade.
Well, you put him with Wembanyama and put some shooters around that guy. then he might be able to get some pretty good looks out there on the floor with that group. Steph Castle picked number 4 overall. They traded 8, which was Rob Dillingham, to the Minnesota Timberwolves. A good deal there for both sides of those teams. Sixers at 41. So as these things are starting to come off the board.
And by the way, real quick, apparently I was waiting because it was not clear to me. I believe Johnny Furphy was drafted for the Pacers. The Pacers and Spurs are flip-flopping these picks.
Okay.
And I think Cash
But I think
is going to the
theoretically could be a
Spurs.
decent fit next to Halliburton, too, and getting out.
Oh,
of
I mean,
space.
look, yeah. And again, white guy in Indiana, you could do worse. In
really
terms
leaning
of,
into that.
The
All right,
quote-
listen, all
the
the white
quota-
guy markets, I always love just being like, they love a white guy.
The quota,
there,
man.
you know?
It's the quota. So Indiana, Utah, any other ones?
Those are Oklahoma City.
OKC.
Although they don't, I mean, Chet, obviously, but they haven't over-indexed on the white guys.
All right. Well,
Presti is more of the get me the guys who can play.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but
Actually, they drafted Topic last night, but European white guy,
That
a little
doesn't
bit
count.
different than European ball handling white guy. That's a different archetype.
Yeah, well, if we were let's put together our top 5 best white guys, we wouldn't put the European guys because they're European. That's just,
I mean, Jokic, but
European.
yeah.
Yeah, European. So Dirk would be over there
Do
with
a
him.
white guy basketball player draft one day. How high is Woody Harrelson's character in White Men Can't
Are we
Jump?
going 5 or are we going full team?
No, we got to go.
Gotta go 5.
I mean,
Gotta go 5.
Bird, and then who?
McHale,
It's really
Jerry West, all kinds of,
Jerry West's a good one.
Yeah.
So we're just not counting any Europeans. This is the Devon Givens rule.
That's how I would do it. Yeah.
Okay.
That's how I would do it. Because
That-
you can do
that
a
does
whole
make it tougher.
European
If you do
team.
Europeans, you do Dirk, Jokic.
Doncic.
I would consider Peja.
Yeah.
He was pretty
Absolutely.
good. At
Even
his
prime
peak.
Sabonis if you don't count the
Ginobili.
injuries.
Prime Sabonis, yeah, that's a good one.
And
Ginobili.
putting
Well,
Ginobili.
Ginobili's Argentina, so that's. Are we doing
Does
South
that count?
American?
Well,
Yeah,
he's put them all in the same class there. Put them all in the
now
same
now we're
class
really
there.
stretching that.
We need with these
'Cause
guidelines.
now we're gonna start
We have to
breaking these
establish these
things
guidelines
down.
before we do that.
Yeah,
shit.
we're going to break things down here. So Indiana did take Juan Nunez for the San Antonio Spurs. So on brand, if we're going to go Indiana white guy, we're going to go San Antonio international player. Because that's what they do.
This is just reminding me of the. You ever seen? I'm sure you have the racial draft on Chappelle's show. Hey, we're not going down this road today. I'm not getting myself in any trouble. Where did Nunez play for?
Well, real fast, Brian Pumper with a super chat. Have to say it. He paid for it. Indiana, Furphy. That's a player I can get behind.
With a crying emoji.
Of course, on brand for Brian Pumper here with us.
We also had Cannoli ask, when's the last time the Sixers drafted a white guy? I think Pasechniks was the last one, wasn't it?
Remember they took Jason Smith with like the 14th
And then before
pick?
that, it would have been
Probably
Cork.
Korver.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Korkmaz?
Pasechnik's the most recent.
You were saying Korkmaz?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does he?
See,
I'm
that's-
not trying to get into like the
I
politics of
saw
like
something,
white
folks.
identity.
Love
but
it.
Is Turkish? I don't know. Where do we? I don't
Where's
know
the
what people.
Where
What
we
do you
drawing
want
the
to call
line?
him? Like light skinned? Like what are we getting
No,
at here?
I don't know. Because
We're just saying international.
I'm Irish and German. That's like you're.
That is
you're
clearly, yes.
super white. if
You
you're
got your
Irish,
20,
right?
23 me back and it said white.
Can we
Yes.
just say international? just out of the country.
That's
out of our
like
country.
how easily do you tan? It's like a factor, I think. And I don't. You know, I gotta wear a lot. I'm wearing 50 in the summertime.
Bo Babby says Turkish is white passing. So there you go.
That's yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Juan Nunez, where is he?
Listen,
say
if I couldn't
anything?
even pronounce the team that he played for, he's
Okay.
from Madrid.
Spain.
Nunez,
Okay.
that's a very
All right.
Spanish name there. Played for Real Madrid's youth program.
Mhm.
I'm going through like the whole biography here because, all right, so he played for Ratio Farm Ulm. I believe that's in Germany. I am certainly not going to sit here and say that I watched a Spanish guy in the German league this year.
No.
So
Yeah.
best of luck to Juan Nunez. You're in a place that appreciates international players.
No question about it. No question about it. All right. As we approach pick number 41, we'll take a quick break because we're getting there soon. We're already at 37. So we do want to let everybody know as we have our show last night. We started on Tuesday. We had Monday off. Here we are on Thursday. So 3 days in a row. And we keep it going for the rest of the week. We are presented by our good friends from Rothman Orthopedics. Rothman Orthopedics, very, very important to me as I've had my ACL and my Achilles surgery with those great people at Rothman. Got to know my doctors pretty well, Dr. Emperor, my other doctor for my Achilles last summer. And if you are having joints aching, hands cramping, back out of whack, Rothman's got you all covered. At Rothman Orthopedics, practicing in specialized care has been their passion for over 50 years. Their mission, high quality, compassionate, and affordable care rooted in research. Research leading to new treatments and better outcomes. Each Rothman doc is laser focused on their specialty, whether it's hip, knee, spine, you name it, shoulder. I'm having a little shoulder issue. I might have to give our folks
I'm doing all this carrying of the team. You know?
Not quite, but I do get a lot of shots off or pass with my left hand pretty well. They're Rothman Orthopedics, and they specialize in you. So Rothman, with 200 plus fellowship trained physicians, subspecialized in specific areas, as mentioned, as a hip, knee, spine, shoulder, and elbow, foot, ankle. Any place on your body, they can take a look at it to make sure that see what the issue is and help you out there to see if something needs to be done. Year over year, Rothman consistently performs among the highest volume of hip, knee, shoulder, and ankle replacements in the country. That's over 60,000. I was one of them last year with my Achilles. It's not just the volume of 255,000 of new patients and consults that Rothman is proud of, but instead it's their commitment to improving each of those patients' lives through their service and care. So Rothman Orthopedics, they specialize in orthopedics, and you would visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more and make an appointment today.
I'm looking, if you would have given me 100 guesses, I would not have guessed that guy is Bobby Klintman from Sweden. No way.
Not at all.
Didn't watch a whole lot of Bobby leading up.
Anyways, before we get back to the draft.
I'm pretty sure we talked about him at some point at 16, too.
I think so, but
my voice is going to be so fucking gone.
I'd love to tell you guys about our friends at Sleep Healthy PA. At Sleep Healthy PA, they are committed to helping Philadelphia residents stop the snore and find solutions for sleep apnea that will allow you to rest well and improve your health. Guys, what causes sleep apnea? There's a choke point in the throat, causes snoring. It's like having a kink in the garden hose. Nobody likes having a kink in the garden hose. Certainly nobody likes having sleep apnea. So Dr. Andrew Cohen, board certified in dental sleep medicine, and his staff will work one-on-one with you to provide first-class care that meets your needs. Many physicians aren't equipped to provide other options outside of CPAP machines. And more than anything else, Dr. Cohen wants to see his patients healthy. Are you tired of CPAP machines that are cumbersome? Is your significant other tired of it too? As we've said on this show, and I still can't believe this, 50% of divorces cite snoring as a main issue.
No patience.
They're based in Jenkintown. Dr. Cohen's worked for years to educate dentists across the country on his personal approach to helping those with sleep apnea. His team is committed to stopping the snore. If you tell him PHLY sent you, you'll receive 15% off of your initial workup. The process is easy. It's a 2-hour initial exam split into 2 sessions, information gathering, and then you review your results and share recommendations. So if you're experiencing sleep apnea and looking for a custom solution to stop the snore, reach out to Dr. Cohen at sleephealthypa.com or call his number, 215-337-2501. Tell him PHLY sent you.
Well, with this new wrinkle that they have here for round number 2, they have a green room right there, right where the podium. It looks like the lottery. Remember how the lottery used to look? Yeah. And they would have the players right there, and they would take care of putting the draft order together. That's what it looks like right here. So they're inviting the players that were not drafted last night if they want to be there, and a few others here for those players to have their family, a smaller table with just 2 other people plus the player at the table. So pretty decent wrinkle for that there.
It was devastating the first draft I covered when you realized the green room was neither green nor a room.
It was not a room, and it wasn't green.
It was just a couple of rows of tables.
So how did they come up with the green room as the title?
I mean, I guess at some point I had no idea.
Yeah, I guess they changed.
Very
the
disappointing.
Color. They didn't
My
like
whole
the
life
color.
was a lie.
Maybe people complained that they were more leaning towards Boston and they didn't like it, the other teams. I don't know. Well, we are at pick number 38 for the New York Knicks right now. Sixers coming up at 41, Kyle. It's creeping up on us as we got underway at 4 o'clock. We are almost there, and there are some pretty good players on the board, as some have gone off maybe we didn't expect. But Some players still available. Do you expect them to keep this pick here as we get a little bit closer? I mean, there's a chance that they trade it, certainly. But there are some names there that we've talked about that would be interesting.
Yeah, so I think Cam Christie is a guy I would have some interest in. I'm trying to think of one of the guys that we had a laugh about the other day, but who I heard some great things about from scouts, I think is going next on the board to Oklahoma City. So we won't get to talk about Ajay Mitchell. I do think Bobby Clintman, by the way, who went to, I believe he ended up with Detroit when it was all said and done.
A lot of movement here in the second round.
All the machinations of what happened there. Seems like another guy who just like, he's got tools and maybe he gets there, but they're still kind of on this same path as an organization with who they're developing. It's a lot of guys that you have question marks for. And Cade Cunningham sitting there like, can you just get me somebody who has like a definable skill set instead of, the pure upside? Maybe he turns into a Batum, Ariza type of player. Now, maybe there are a lot of people who are high on Clintman, so we'll see what happens with him. But good tools, some decent projectable skills, but eventually Detroit's going to have to build a basketball team.
Every time they make a selection, it's just like, but why does that guy have to go there? I'm so down on everything that's Detroit Pistons right now. Why couldn't he just stay exactly where he was selected to be? And that was before traded with the Minnesota Timberwolves. And then you say, okay, good organization, good coaching staff, and maybe they can do something there and develop this player. But he's going to Detroit, and again, what are they doing? Just like we asked the question about the Washington Wizards and what are they doing?
Yeah.
But with this pick, the New York Knicks selects A.J. Mitchell from Santa Barbara, and a player that, as we start to do a little more research on and we talk about it, he's going to Is he going to OKC or is he going to New York?
It appears he's going to OKC.
Okay, he's going to OKC.
Sent cash to the Knicks
and
for
pick
40.
And pick 40. He looks like, and not just because he wore his number 13, but he kind of looks like Malcolm Brogdon with the old man kind of game, below the rim, play at his own pace type of point guard, playmaker. And not saying that he's going to have that type of career. Malcolm Brogdon did slide to the second round. His was more because of the knee issues that he had, not because of the other stuff that we talk about now. But he kind of had, he seems like he has that kind of game, that old man game. And A.J. Mitchell now headed to OKC.
What I heard about him is that he is someone said, I want you to look into his at-rim numbers.
Okay.
And by the stats, this blew me away. He only had like 6.7% of his shots at the rim assisted, which is to say he created almost everything that he got. And he was able to still, I think he made 60+% of his shots at the rim in the half court. Now, look, he's playing at UC Santa Barbara. Competition level is not that high. But even without elite burst or athleticism, this is a guy whose finishing package at the rim was pretty special. So the big question mark for Mitchell is, can he shoot? And he shot better this year. His volume was up. His efficiency was up. That being said, it's a upperclassman who has one good shooting year on record. Do you buy it? And if you don't buy it, I don't know that he can be a regular NBA rotation player. He is a guy that if that shot is real, if that shot comes, he's already a good enough scorer at the rim that he could be a real upside swing here. So I understand why you take a swing on him, but measuring the competition level is one of the hardest parts of judging prospects, right? And that's why they have combine scrimmages. And this is where some of the pre-draft workouts actually matter. For any of the guys who go up against some of the guys from big programs that go in round one, if Mitchell can go play against those guys and look good in the workout, that helps dispel some concerns about someone coming from that sort of program.
Well, if you go to Detroit, we would really have a problem, but he's going to OKC. So it might work out for him in that situation. Again, just looking at him, it has that Malcolm Brogdon look. And even coming out of Virginia, Malcolm Brogdon, one of the knocks on him was the outside shooting. Everything else outside of the defense, that was also a question mark. But the floor the floor balance and the running of a team and the scoring at the rim, all of that was a positive. That was a strength of Malcolm Brogdon. A little bit different when you're talking about this guy is like an ACC first team type of player, getting to Sweet 16s, Elite Eights, and all with Virginia at that time. Different competition in the ACC and playing against much better opponents. He looks the part, at least, where you say I'm intrigued to watch him. So in summer league, when I'm watching OKC, I want to see AJ Mitchell and see exactly what he looks like out there, similar to what, again, for me, looks like Malcolm Brogdon like as I make a quick comp there. Next up is the Memphis Grizzlies at 39.
Jalen Wells.
Yep. All right, so guys are starting to fall off. Derek, what are you looking at? Are there names for you? Fall down, pardon me, where maybe there's something for you.
It was brought up in the chat, and I think Kyle might have mentioned it. Cam Christie, I think, is probably towards the top. Another guy who's just a real good shooter, good off the catch, good off the dribble, has a little more size than McCain. The defense, I think, is pretty tragic. I think McCain, in terms of awareness and consistency, is much better positionally.
Yes.
But it's another great shooter. And like I said, it's great off the catch, good on a pull-up shot. That's really important, especially when he has a little bit more size. And I don't think the effort is necessarily, I'm not sure the effort's great, but I don't think the effort's his main problem defensively. It's mostly awareness. It's mostly technique. It's getting through screens. It's anticipating screens. It is helping a little bit too much off. It is, maybe his closeouts. It's things that are theoretically correctable. Now, you might be hearing that and think, well, that sounds a little bit like Tobias. Yeah, look, there's weaknesses defensively for sure. But at this stage, considering the shot, considering he's got a little more prototypical two-guard size, I think that is a name worth considering for sure.
Since Kyle mentioned it first and you talking about it, stay with you on this one with Cam Christie. And knowing how you look at and how much you like his game for where he is now, the trade that happened. But when you scouted and looked at Isaiah Joe, talking about a 6'5" second-round pick, coming into the league, coming into this team with the Sixers, knowing they needed shooting, would you look at a similar type of profile? Is that the kind of thing that was happening with him when looking back then? A little bit.
The thing with Joe that always intrigued me was his movement. He had the chance to be an elite off-movement shooter, running off of screens, flying around the perimeter. I'm not sure I necessarily see that with Christie, but whenever you have that kind of touch and that kind of repeatable motion, and you're good at getting your feet set, there's a chance to grow into it. But I think Joe was pretty well developed in that regard right from the jump.
Yeah, I don't want to go too deep on Christie yet in the event that they might take him here. But I would say, so he would be in the mix. If you look at McCullough out of Kansas.
Rich mentioned him last night as a guy he likes.
He's a different sort of player where the shot is basically the only thing that you're really concerned about. It is a big concern because he's an older prospect. And even his good shooting season last year, I don't think was that great. It was just better than the previous bads. So that would be the concern for him. I'm trying to think of who else that I like that makes sense here.
Bronny James, man.
So apparently on the broadcast, Bob Myers said that if a team takes Bronny that's not the Lakers, that Rich Paul is threatening to have him play in Australia next season.
You got to be careful because he might be in Australia anyway.
He might be in Australia
still on one of those teams? Is Colangelo still on one of those teams? Maybe you can get Bronny.
The Adelaide 87ers or whatever the hell they're called.
That seemed very specific that he said Australia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe Justin Edwards if you want a nice, nice homecoming.
Another Kentucky, and of course homecoming. To your point, but really. Threatening to send him to Australia
I'm just telling you what was said on the broadcast. I'm passing this along.
Devon, man.
I'm talking it out with you.
If you don't stop pissing me off, I'm going to go start doing shows in Australia.
Goodness gracious.
Now, here's what I would say. If you're the Sixers and you see that and you have to deal with Mr. Paul moving forward, I don't think Bronny is worth the headache.
Well, Bronny's not worth the headache, and the 1% chance that LeBron would consider it probably isn't worth pissing Tyrese Maxey off. Yeah.
Wow, man. Okay, Well, no chance he's coming to the Sixers, huh?
Then again, agents make all kinds of threats at this time of year. It's just this one's a little more public than they normally are.
Yes, he started the broadcast off here tonight talking about Bronny James when he hasn't even been selected yet.
Nor should he be.
It does
Nor
appear
should he
Christie
be.
will be available at 41, by the way, because Phoenix traded up to 40. And I'm not going to try to pronounce the guy that they're selecting.
And this is the Jaden Springer pick
Okay.
they got for Jaden Springer.
Derek, you going to pronounce that name?
No.
All
Come
right.
on.
Igadoro?
That seems
Oso
in the ballpark.
Igadoro. Sure. That
Yeah.
works.
All right. Well, we appreciate everybody hanging out with us. We'll be here again. We're sticking around for a while. Sixers pick coming up. This is the PHLY Sixers NBA Draft Show, Round 2, Day 2. Hanging out with you, Derek Bodner, Kyle Neubeck, Devon Givens, Brianna's here, Chris is here, as we hang out with all of you. I'm looking to see if there are any names here in the chat that any of you want for the 76ers at pick number 41. We're about a pick away from them because you guys said that pick number 40 is basically already out there. So we're waiting for the Sixers at pick 41. Decent name out there on the board that we just talked about, Derek and I. Kyle was going to wait and
Well,
hold
us
off
talking
in the
about
event.
it before
Cam
the pick
Christie.
means there's no chance the Sixers are going to pick him.
Of course.
Sort of like Dalton Connect last night.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we'll see what they do there. Bronny James on the board. There's some other names as
Apparently,
Kyle
It's
mentioned.
the
McCullough.
Adelaide 36ers,
Okay.
by the way,
Okay.
because I was just looking up. That's who Trenton Flowers plays for. There are some people who are very in on him. I don't believe I'm one of them in the little bit that I've watched, but the Adelaide 36ers. Maybe that'll be Bronny's next team. We'll have to wait and see.
Adelaide 36ers. Oh, okay. I don't get it.
We're just sitting tight over here and
Yes,
waiting
we
to
are.
see
Yes, we
who
are.
it's going to be.
Yeah.
The Knicks, by the way, are just trading over and over and over again.
They
Every
traded a
time
lot
it
of
seems-
stuff the other day, man. Got to get some of them second round picks back.
Yeah, but they're getting like, hey, congratulations, you got 56 in this draft. It's not if you're getting future stuff, great. If you're getting stuff in this draft that's just further back,
Yeah.
I don't know that you're getting more than just cash. I guess the justification would be you're trying to cut down on the amount of salary you're taking on for anybody that you draft here. That's probably the main thing.
Well, Justin Edwards, as you talked about too, man, there's just being available. A player that was at Kentucky, local guy from Philadelphia, 6'6", 203. We'll see if something happens there with him, because you always like to see the local guys be rewarded and hear their names called. So we'll see what happens with Justin Edwards. We'll let you know if and when he does, in fact, get selected. And the Sixers are now on the clock here at pick number 41.
There you go.
Yeah, Iguodala going to Portland. Some might say Iguodala. Try
that
to
would not be right.
mix it up. And
That would be like, what's the name that you
would be
screwed up?
Tiramisu.
Tiramisu.
Yeah, the mercy me. The mercy me. Anthony was talking on the show earlier. I joined Anthony this morning. He was talking about how Philadelphia, he and JP and VG were talking about how Philadelphia is just, it's so good with names of over the years of just saying the wrong name when it's very, very clear of how to say their name. Like Iguodala, that would be one of
The
them.
real classic is either adding an S where it doesn't
Yes.
belong or
Yes.
removing an S
A
that already
Philadelphia
exists.
tradition like no other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alshon Jeffries was an
Yes.
all-time classic.
Yep.
And that was
Yeah.
who else? I'm trying to think of the
There's a ton of them. Now we
Yeah.
put each other on the spot. We won't be able to name them, but
The one that used to get me as a kid was Hershey Hawkins.
Hershey Hawkins.
That's a city. That's not a. No.
Yes.
I haven't been to Hershey Park in a while. I should
No,
go
it's
back
been a long
there.
time.
Yeah.
Growing up, I grew up right around Dorney Park, so I'm a little partial.
Okay.
But yeah,
Yeah, Hershey
Can't-
Hawkins was a very
can't
good
cheat
one.
on Dorney like that.
Yeah. Yeah, Hershey Hawkins was a very good one. All right, Sixers on the clock, about 2 minutes to go. They basically took the entire 5 minutes last night, so just for argument's sake here, they'll probably do the same here. And 2 more minutes to go.
Daryl's not going to waste time. If he's got another 2 minutes left on a deadline, he's not waiting, or he's not going early.
Especially if he can make a trade, right? Trade down, just like the Knicks are doing. If he wanted to do that,
the longer we sit here and talk, it's like, why the hell did they make this a 2-night event? It really is.
Last night, man.
Although it's like, there's more opportunities for trades, and it really has just been.
No,
the Knicks are going to trade back 16 times.
You traded 51 and 56 for 40. Who cares?
God, man.
Yeah, well, we appreciate the 700 plus people that are in here.
We're having a good time. The show itself is not the problem. It's the idea that, like, oh man, look, it's all these opportunities that are going to be there. It's like, these are the same things these teams have done every single year when it was a 1-night draft. So, whatever.
Yeah, got a fun one here for Correll Buckwalter.
Get off my lawn, that's what I'm saying.
Jeffrey Wall, Cornell Buckwalter instead of Corell Buckhalter for the Philadelphia Eagles back in the early 2000s as part of the team. Spencer Hall with no S. That's another one that they put up there in our chat. A minute to go, and of course, Daryl Morey is taking every minute of this pick here, and he's not letting it get out there. I will die
if they take Bronny here after the Australia.
That's not good for our show, though.
I mean, listen, from a content perspective.
We can try to get Rich Paul to come on and upset. Is this going to affect Tyrese Maxey's max contract?
There's already some rumors out there regarding what the Rich Paul, Tyrese Maxey contingent will ask for in the contract, like some carve outs for.
The only real consideration would be a player option.
Yeah. So.
Well, we'll talk about Jamal Murray in just a bit.
They're really running this down, man.
Yeah, man. Last night,
and by the way, they've done a pretty good job keeping things close to the vest. Because last night,
I don't think you really, because you were doing your stuff, trying to find out who it was and what it was and all that, and with it. Trying to figure out what it was and who it was.
We have a pick.
We were sitting there watching it go all the way down to the clock, man. We were watching it. All right, the Sixers have a pick. Who do they have, Derek Bodner?
Adam Bona, a 6'8" center.
UCLA.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, when I talk to you, I would have to pull it up here and find it again. But the information that good motor with the guy, some toughness.
Big time defensive play generator.
Yes.
Blocks around the rim, steals, huge motor. That is really,
will be an impactful player on the offensive glass.
Yeah.
We'll be in foul trouble because, as we talked about, young
That's fine.
players,
He's playing 12 minutes a game.
Young bigs, man, coming in. So, but he is a hard worker. Is what they say about him. Tough, super athletic.
And I think positionally pretty good
motor.
Too.
Got a big wings. He's got like a 7'4" wingspan. Yep. So despite the fact that I think he's closer to 6'8.5". He's not a true 6'8".
Mm-hmm.
The wingspan will help him get away with playing center at 6'8". I would say this. I don't think it's the best sign in the world for our friend Paul Reed.
But we were assured that Paul was going to be around and they liked his contract. Daryl said it publicly at a press conference.
It's
he's under contract.
So here's let's go back to around the trade deadline, right? We've talked a lot about who they were in the mix for, who they talked about. That Jonas Valanciunas is somebody they kicked the tires on a little bit, but the contract there was tough. Andre Drummond, they thought they had a deal for. And both of those guys are archetypes that are much different from Paul Reed, right? Like the whole idea was you're going to get a big body, minutes eater type guy that this guy can play over the next 2 months with Joel out. And depending on who the matchup is in the playoffs, like certainly I think if they had gotten Andre Drummond, he's probably better equipped to battle someone like Hartenstein or Mitchell Robinson for that matter than Paul Reed was. Like Paul Reed struggled throughout that series. So I think now that you see them take another guy, like an undersized, plays hard, high motor type player, I don't think that says good things about Paul Reed's future with the organization.
And I think the key difference is, like, he's got pretty much the exact same, despite being shorter, like 2 inches shorter than Paul Reed, he's got almost the exact same standing reach. But I think the key difference is, I mean, first of all, the motor's incredible.
Yes.
But he gets off his feet very quickly. Like, I think he is going to alter shots near the rim in a way that Paul Reed doesn't.
Yes.
And I think that's pretty key differentiator because Paul Reed, for all of his, I think he has some switchability on defense. And because of that, I've always been intrigued. And Paul Reed's similar in the fact that he will generate a lot of steals. He just never really altered shots inside. So I think this will allow you to play a little more of a traditional drop if he does end up playing, for the Sixers this year. There's always a chance G League. There's always a chance a couple of other different things, two-way contracts. Who knows? But I do think he has the at least potential to alter shots near the rim in a way that Paul Reed doesn't.
So I would say this. One thing that I heard, and I discussed this with some of the people I trust scouting-wise, was that, and this will be a problem for him in a Sixers context, he is not all that comfortable in dribble handoff situations yet. And so he might have to purely be a pick and roll rim runner type. Right. And that will put some hard limits on what you can do with backup units on offense. Now, look, you're not bringing him in expecting him to be an every night player or he's the guy behind Joel Embiid, right? You can't bring him in with those kind of expectations. He has some offensive weaknesses that he's got to work on. But when you start with a base of plays hard, good wingspan, good rim protector, event creator, and I think he'll be at least a decent finisher at the next level, then that's not a bad place to start. I know I think on the show we've had a guy like Bismack Biyombo come up as if that was a depth big type of guy. Could he be that type of player eventually? I don't think that's completely crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's some projection to do, but not out of the question.
So to add on to the athleticism and the motor that we talked about, the other thing that was shared with me was, to the point of you talking about the dribble handoffs and all, the skills and the feel of the game need to catch up with him as a young player. So a lot of work to do. Probably plays, of course, some with the G League and the Blue Coats and get some work done there to help him out overall. But not a bad selection right there to have just some more size there in the front court where, you don't want to bring Mo Bamba back and have him in the mix. No Bamba.
Can we put his name on probation moving forward?
Him and Tobias Harris, those two, because we haven't talked about either one of them.
You're out of here. I don't need to hear about you anymore.
I will say, and look, I think
got a replacement here.
Yeah, I think the chat right now is just reacting to 6'8" center. Like I said, I'm fine with 6'8" if you have the motor and the athletic tools to make up for it. But really what I'm more fine with is, we had a show about centers with the 16th pick. I don't want to draft a backup with the 16th pick. I don't want to draft a guy whose minutes are capped at 12 minutes per game with the 16th pick. But if you're talking 41st pick, there might be offensive concerns. He might be a little undersized. But if you're getting a guy, like I said, with a motor, with really elite athleticism, take a chance. I'm fine with that.
Good screen setter as well, which, look, we've lived through a lot of different backup bigs here in Philadelphia. Plenty of them who like to slip the screen instead of making real contact. So for Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain and whoever else might be leading those bench units, if you're playing with our new pal Bona, he is going to hit that guy that is on you, and hopefully that gives somebody like Maxey a path to the rim. And frankly, for McCain, who's a guy who will be reliant on the big to create separation for him a lot of the time, I think he'll play more minutes with Joel, so it might be a moot point. But someone who's a legit screen setter will make a difference for him, make his life easier early on.
Yeah, level those guys as they try to get around that screen. And physical, pick up those fouls from time to time, but they might think about it again the next time they try to go and run through that screen that he does, in fact, set. And again, if he's part of this team, maybe we'll see him in Summer League and get a glimpse of both of them. McCain.
See some dunks and sick blocks at Summer League. 100%. I'm always down for that.
No, Summer League could be entertaining with these guys.
Yeah. Ricky. Go get him, Rick.
We'll see if Rick has graduated past.
He just got a contract, like a real NBA contract, like 4 months ago. I think he can still probably talk him into Summer League.
You can talk him into 2 games.
Yeah, maybe not the full slate.
And then come hang out with us,
man,
right?
If he ends up playing in Utah and not Vegas, that would be a real disappointment.
I was about to say, he gets his Utah work in, 1 or 2 games in Vegas, just because he likes to show. Let's not kid ourselves. So he wants to show everybody in front of that Las Vegas crowd that he is that guy. And so maybe we'll get to see Rick, the little Turk out there, and Turk and McCain in the backcourt together. That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
It will be interesting. But
That
yeah,
will be
so
interesting.
for where they were at and who was on the board, I think it's a perfectly fine fit. Like I never really worry about fit once you get to like take somebody that you believe can be an NBA rotation player, or at least has a chance to be an NBA rotation player, and all the underlying stuff. Like he'll block shots, but to Derek's point, I think he can be a switch defender as well. He's somebody who can step out and guard perimeter players. And if he, now I don't think this will ever happen because he's kind of a disaster free throw shooter and is limited to the paint right now.
And I think he took all of like 12 mid-range jumpers all year.
If he ever expanded his range defensively, he could play with somebody like Embiid. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll ever see it.
No,
so I think that would be a bona fide disaster.
Jesus, I got. Somebody sent me the. I got a text from someone of the building in Philadelphia that says "Boner Forever." So that was. We're starting things off on a high note.
A Philly building with a Boston accent.
Bona. Brett Brown saying.
That would have been bad. Will Nick Nurse play this young fella? And but he has a motor, so we'll see. We'll see. Can he do some things like that there? For the Sixers, Bona, the center from UCLA, KJ Simpson goes to Colorado, goes to the Charlotte Hornets. Miami with their selection.
He was one of the better
43.
available guys, I think, right? Simpson, but I would not have liked the fit here after taking McCain
anyway, especially over him. So another Nikola going here from Serbia, going to the Miami Heat. I'm not even going to. Duricic?
That's what it looks like.
Right. Just end it with this, and you're good.
He was the 2022-23 Adriatic League Top Prospect Award winner, according to ESPN. So that's a fun one.
And they have Nikola Jovic also.
Look at those
on the
beautiful
team.
pink jerseys. Oh, man.
They are pretty slick. I'll give them that.
Is this the former Megalex? Because they had.
What do they call them? What's Mega called now?
Well, this is Mega MIS.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Is that?
I think it's the same program.
All right.
No, actually, Mega that we know is KK Mega Soccer Bet.
It's one thing to change the jerseys every year, which I disagree with, by the way, because they had some fire ones, and when you get one, just stick with it. But changing the name every year is tough.
Listen, Americans who don't follow overseas sports leagues are the pushback on the jersey sponsors was. I get it, but it's not a big deal. I agree. But you have a team name. The team name should be static. It can't be like the Philadelphia Enterprise Sixers or like some ridiculous name. Once again, get off my lawn with all that.
All right. Well, Nikola right now looks like he's going to Miami, but I'm seeing some other things here too where Pelly Larson might be available for Miami at pick 44 because of a flip-flop with 43 and 44 with Atlanta. So there's some movement again going on here in the second round. But the Sixers, again, making their selection at pick number 41, taking here in the second round at pick 41, Adam Bona, center from UCLA, 6'8", 245, physical player, athleticism off the charts. Just has to get a better feel for the game. So we'll see how that all plays out for him here in a Nick Nurse system, playing behind Joel Embiid, giving a little bit of some competition maybe to Paul Reed and how this all plays out. So we'll see with Paul Reed and with his contract at the signing the 3-year, $24 million deal last offseason, of course, guaranteed if they made it to the second round, both years guaranteed, both 2 and 3 if they made it to the second round, which they did not. Getting knocked off in the first round.
We thought that was a given. That was like,
that's why it wasn't a bad.
That's easy mode.
It wasn't a bad thing to put into your contract until you guys get hurt and you cannot move past the first round. But when you look at his contract, there's a chance that his contract with that $8 million could be moved in a deal down the line.
I'm actually thinking I know we're on Bona and the center stuff right now. I wouldn't even say a little shocked. I'm pretty shocked at where we're at right now.
Trades.
That they have just stood where they're at and done nothing. which doesn't mean they're going to do nothing.
They can't. They have 5 players.
But to be here,
6 now.
521, we're halfway
Oh, you're
through.
counting Paul Reed still. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's where the discrepancy comes.
Yeah, okay.
I just want to say one thing. Like, yeah, Bona doesn't that's not portend well for Paul Reed, but I also don't think they're counting on a second-round rookie to step in and fill in a rotation spot. So my skepticism of Paul Reed being here is more because of the $8 million, not because of this selection.
Yeah, so I don't want to overstep with what I'm saying, because the other day we did a prediction show and people were like, well, they're trading for Brandon Ingram, and did that. So I got to be on my wind horse.
Which you never
don't
said.
aggregate this
Legitimate
tip
don't
right
get me
now.
started.
Neither
Yes.
of you you didn't say that.
But for them to just sit and for nothing to have happened yet, there's no real noise coming out of the practice facility in Camden. Paul George just still kind of floating out there in the ether. I am just very interested to see how these next few days pan out, because I thought the least likely option coming in was make the picks and just wait until free agency opens. Like I wouldn't say the whole value of having all this flexibility is to make trades on draft night, but at least some of the value of maintaining all this flexibility is to get ahead of the trade market and say, we're going to absorb this guy.
Well, there was a report that said with the Sixers cooling interest in Paul, I almost said Paul Reed. Paul George was because they wanted to be proactive on draft night.
A lot of mixed signals happening right now. So either something is happening that we're not quite aware of yet, or they're going to have a lot of explaining to do to some very angry people in the next week and a half.
All right, so the question I asked you, though, about Paul Reed and his $8 million.
I think they could move him, frankly. Like, I think their position on Paul was, we don't dislike the contract and we think it's movable. And if not, we have the freedom to cut him. Yeah. So I don't think they're in a good position with it. I don't think Paul's in a good spot right now, because it's not guaranteed, they can do anything they want at any time up until, I believe it's like early January, somewhere in that range.
For it to be fully guaranteed.
Before the guarantee comes into play. And so they don't have incentive to do anything until they know, okay, this is what we're doing this offseason. Like we have, if it's Paul George, if it's Brandon Ingram, if it's Caldwell Pope, Klay Thompson, whoever it could be. They don't need to do anything with him until the last possible second. I just think it's a bad omen. Not omen.
If they believed in Paul Reed long term, then they probably don't make the selection. It's very fair. Very fair.
All right. When we are at pick number 45 right now for the Sacramento Kings. Pretty good workout for them yesterday, as Devin Carter fell to them at 13. One that we thought maybe went a little bit higher, but he goes into a pretty solid spot. Davion Mitchell traded earlier today to the Toronto Raptors from Sacramento to Toronto. Jalen McDaniels, former Sixer, traded to Sacramento in that deal. So when we talked about it yesterday when the trade happened, that Mitchell had fallen out of favor for Keon Ellis. Also Kevin Huerter also falling out of favor. There was a chance that something happened there, and we saw that domino fall with Davion Mitchell to Toronto. So Sacramento on the clock there. But Bronny James still available, and that Bronny James to Australia thing is still pretty funny as we sit here at 45, 10 picks away from the Lakers.
Starting at 2 guard for your Adelaide 36ers, Bronny James. Yeah, I think he's going to the Lakers. I think it's pretty set in stone if I had to guess.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I mean, I'm kind of glad that nobody caved and took him in the late first or early second. You should.
I would say that was a tell that nobody thinks LeBron is going anywhere. If there was a real chance that LeBron was leaving the Lakers this offseason, somebody's making that.
Oh, like we said at the time, if that would materially change the chances, like Daryl Morey would light that 16th pick on fire.
Yeah.
It's not actually going to change the chances.
All right. Well, all right. So Toronto, this one Toronto and Sack making the deal earlier. This is for the Toronto Raptors. Jamal Sheed from Houston going to the Toronto Raptors with his pick selected by the Sacramento Kings. And then at 46, the Clippers will be on the clock. And it looks like the guy, Cam Christie.
I was going to say, so we're starting to get into the territory of guys who will say, don't draft me. Yep. So I thought Cam Christie might be in that camp where I think he was considered highly enough, like, fringe first round, early second guy, that if he didn't go in one of these next couple picks, I feel like his agent might have been on the phone saying, we'll send him where we think works best for him, whoever can work out a two-way deal for him or whatever it might be. But yeah, go to the Clippers. Frankly, that's probably a good spot for any young player hoping to get minutes right away and not have to be the guy, because with the Clippers being up against the aprons and the lack of flexibility they have, anyone that they're taking, you're potentially getting thrown into the rotation at any given time. So that might end up working out well for Christie.
All right. Well, a couple of things that also happened earlier today. We talked about the trade there with Sacramento and Toronto. Davion Mitchell headed to the Raptors. Jalen McDaniels going to the Sacramento Kings. AJ Griffin from the Atlanta Hawks traded to the Houston Rockets in a deal earlier. A lot more stuff in there, but just more of, we've talked about the Atlanta Hawks, the possibility of things happening with them, including as early as draft night, round 1. Nothing has happened yet with Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, Clint Capella. None of these players. AJ Griffin, the first to go off, and he's going to the Houston Rockets here.
Before I get to the Griffin part, I want to make a note of the fact that the Spurs got a couple more draft assets last night as a team that's already been connected to Trae Young. So I don't think they want to make the leap to being
good.
Excuse me. Good quite yet. So I'm still skeptical they'd move for him. But if you wanted to move for him, picking up a future pick and another pick swap would be helpful.
I also want to go on one other very random, completely something that's not tied at all to it. According to Nate Duncan, the 47th pick with Orlando is the only pick selected in the second round that's from the team that originally owned it. Only
that
one.
Sounds about right.
That's wild.
They move so often anymore.
Anyway, go on.
What were we on?
I don't remember.
What was the...
AJ Griffin. Traded to Houston.
Yeah, so he was a guy that he came out of college with the medical red flags were the big concern, right? Like I think he's had knee issues in the past, and that was a big part of it. The part I can't get a handle on and seemed to be a huge issue this past season was he missed a lot of time due to personal reasons. And I don't really know what the story is there. I think given that the Hawks said, was he a lotto pick or was he like
just outside?
Yeah.
Okay, just outside the lotto, like 15, 16, somewhere in that range. To trade a guy who you took with that type of pick 2 years ago for a mid-second round pick in a bad draft, to me says the team that knows a lot about him said we want to be out of the AJ Griffin business for any kind of reasonable return. I don't hate it for Houston because they have enough developing young talent right now. You say you take a swing on this kid, see if he just needs change of scenery or whatever it might be. But yeah, I don't. Anytime a guy goes from that type of pick to just get him out of here for a second, and nobody really, the people in Atlanta that I know didn't seem to raise much of a fuss.
Had only a couple of moments in Atlanta, but nothing really substantial. And you talked about missing all that time.
Yeah, no, he only played 20 games last year.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. Clippers on the clock here, and I'm looking up and I see this logo. I'm like, what is that? What team is that? Who is that? And I forgot that they changed their logo, and I don't like it. So,
oh yeah, the nautical. It's like the ship. Yeah.
It looks like it should be the Space Needle in Seattle, and that
might just
Seattle.
Be the size of the TV we're working with in here.
It's pretty bad though.
It is.
I mean, look, I'm very partial to teams keeping their logos. Like I like branding to be consistent.
I
I thought the Clippers was a pretty recognizable logo.
recognizable for being trash for most of their existence.
All right, so Cam Christie going to the Clippers from Minnesota, shot 39% from three. And as Kyle, as you said it, man, an opportunity there for him. When you have let Kawhi Leonard and James Harden, if he comes back, certainly
he's a guy. James Harden could make a lot can if he gets real minutes.
Yeah. So a guy that can just shoot the basketball. So if he can get some time, if he can make shots, get some time there. A lot of times they do start off hot, cool off, and then they fall out of the rotation. But really good shooter. And again, as they showed on the broadcast, Max Christie's brother right now with the Los Angeles Lakers. So both the brothers will be in Los Angeles together playing.
It's a brothers draft, right? We got the Williams, we got the Christies.
Yeah. So good stuff. Sar too. Isn't Sar's brother like in the? He's also a basketball player. His other brother,
I'm not sure.
Plays
I'm not.
too.
I don't have that kind of background. Knowledge on Mr. Sar.
Just an update. The 47th pick has been traded to New Orleans, so there will be no second-round picks that end up on the team that originally owned them.
Amazing.
All right. So we're watching out for Bronny James right now just to see if anybody takes him before the Lakers. But other than that,
really is like the only.
That's the only storyline for the second round.
That's pretty sad, honestly. There are some years, like even last year, I felt like there were some guys that, the guys the Sixers ended up with, frankly, were both guys that had maybe not first round grades, but there were times last season where Turk and Ricky Council were in first round conversations. And so getting them that provided some intrigue here, but also around the league. This year, it's like, boy, really picking from a group of guys we have no idea if they'll turn out to be anything.
If he was,
Bronny is the face of that.
Yeah, if he wasn't available, then who would we be talking about? We'd just be talking about Adam Bona and how long you're going to talk about a 6'8" center and go from there. But yeah,
Sar's brother played 46 games for the Thunder.
Okay,
You're
so
right.
it was.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. See. Yeah. Is he still there?
No.
No. Okay.
I don't know where he is.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you, though. People are tired of Rich Paul because of this Australian thing. I've seen it all over the chat here, and we do. Do we have another super chat there?
We got
Bree?
a few in here, I think.
All right, we got a couple of super chats. We go to JM. All right. Let's see.
What letter plan do you feel the Sixers are on right now? Are we already on plan E or F? No real rumors out there. Things seem bleak.
So it depends where they end up. Like, part of the problem is we can't fully know until free agency gets here.
And Paul George is a big part of that.
Yeah, and Paul George would have been like plan A or plan 1A or whatever you want to phrase it. And I think if Ingram ends up being the plan, he probably could have been like plan C. Like, I don't think he was too far down the list. Well, maybe D if you include Butler and if you actually include LeBron as a plan. I don't think anyone really considered that. But look, I think the key is not so much like, are we on plan A, B, or C? It's that if you listed plan A through H, like most of them are off the board, and that's not great.
Yeah, where would McHale have fallen in that? Because I don't think he was. I think if you take the value it would have cost to get him out of it, he would have been very high. But once that was factored in, it didn't seem to me like he was especially high on the plans list, let's say, if we're alphabetizing.
We had him and Lauri Markkanen in the same tier of not unavailable, basically, because we didn't think it was going to cost so much and they wouldn't do it.
And it ended up costing so much that I'm not sure they would have done it.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, so where does Ingram fall into that plan A, B, C through F?
D or E.
Yeah.
So
like I said,
are we on
depends.
that plan now?
Again, I think...
Well, we got to be
Paul
careful
George
here because there might be an aggregator listening. So
I do still think until Paul George is truly off the board, or until Paul George signals, I'm opting in and I'm forcing a trade to Houston or Golden State or wherever it is, I do still think they're going to hover around there. They're not going to, they don't. So correct me if I'm wrong, Derek, but with McCain, for example, they can still trade his rights up until they actually sign him to a contract.
And even after you sign him, you can just wait 2 months and trade him like they did with Andrew Wiggins a while back.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to, but you could.
It's not a big impediment for them to wait. So right now, if they have any belief that Paul George might leave and that they can get him, they're incentivized to sit tight and just say, wait and see if something happens. Now, as that happens, Mikal Bridges is off the board. We don't know what's going to happen with Markkanen here. All the intel we've gotten is that they don't want to move him. But now that we've seen what New York got for Bridges, and now that it sounds a little like the door is maybe not wide open, but it's ajar. If you want to kick it in, it might be possible that's something that's an opportunity that's worth showing some patience for instead of just cashing in for Brandon Ingram right now. You wait to see what else happens.
And look, let's just say that hypothetically Ingram is the backup plan. And I'm saying Legion Hoops, I'm saying hypothetically, and I'm watching you. Let's just say hypothetically Ingram is the backup plan. There's no real concrete rumors from any other teams heavily pursuing him. So there's really no consequence to waiting to see what Paul George does, because theoretically Ingram could still be there. So I think it just like there haven't been most of the updates lately have been like, well, Bridges, all right, that came out of left field, but it's OG going back. It's things like that aren't changing. So there's really no reason to go out and make a move now that would take you out of the Paul George sweepstakes if you think there's a 10% chance Paul George would still consider coming to Philly.
The intel has not been good on Paul George lately, certainly. And even like the public comments have not been great either, because what we needed around here was another Sixers podcaster, right? Like just add another one to the mix, bring Paul George over to this side, and Podcast P, get involved over here. But yeah, he's had a lot of thoughts that they don't seem to line up with a move to Philadelphia.
Yep. San Antonio pick 48 here. Looks like they're going to go with Harrison Ingram from North Carolina. And then we're getting closer to the end of the second round. Uneventful.
End of the second round. We're barely halfway through.
It's moving pretty good. It's moving pretty good.
It's an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm a little upset at the pace of this draft. Yes. I would say that.
Compared to what I thought it was going to be, it's moving pretty good. I'll take it.
Just think if they hadn't spent 12 minutes doing absolutely nothing
we would
at the start time of the draft.
55 probably.
I don't mean to be the we need to take everything from European sports guy, because I also hated the in-season tournament and was a big skeptic of that. And that was borrowed from European sports. I love that when I turn on a game in England or Spain or wherever, and they say, hey, it's a 3:00 start time, not only is the game on, that ball is being put into play at the exact time that they say. It's not, hey, it's 3:00, but it's actually 3:08 or whatever. It drives me fucking crazy.
Shout out ESPN. Appreciate you.
It's not just ESPN.
No, but they're
the worst culprit.
Yeah.
All right, so talking about Mikal and the trade that happened with them, looking past Atlanta right now, unclear of what they do, but the big deal where it looks like they're rebuilding in Brooklyn by trading Kale and getting back all those picks. Bogdanovich also going to Brooklyn. Do you start to look at their roster, potentially trying to raid them a little bit? Cam Johnson on his new contract, 4-year deal. Dorian Finney-Smith, we talked about at the trade deadline as well. No longer Royce O'Neal. He was sent to Phoenix at the deadline in February. Do you start, Kyle, to look maybe there? Is there something there as we build out the roster? Cam Johnson's money is a little bit bigger than maybe you would like. But when we talk about shooting at 6'8", 6'9", the guy can shoot the basketball. Some of the issues is he does miss some games occasionally for these little injuries. But is the money too much for starting to look at that?
Yeah, I've never been much of a Cam Johnson guy in general, because he's a bit of a one-trick pony, right? He can shoot the ball and he's a good standstill type shooter, but that's kind of all he does. And to your point, he's not an especially healthy and available player. I think when you get to the playoffs, you also will run into some issues with him in terms of who he can guard and how flexible you are on defense. I don't think he's a good rebounder in spite of, he is 6'8", but if you're 6'8" and you're skinny and don't have any kind of like high-end competitive level on the boards or whatever you need to do to make up that difference, it doesn't really matter that you're 6'8" and make shots if you don't also bring. It's like, so Jeremy Grant is a guy that we were talking about before the show that maybe we'll get to at some point, right? Like his name has started to pop up. Part of the reason I am basically a hard no on Jeremy Grant is because, yeah, he's a good athlete. Yeah, he's 6'8" and has all these theoretical tools. It doesn't matter. He doesn't rebound. So you're not actually getting the benefit of someone being tall.
You're close to the rim. Put your arms up.
Ooh, that's interesting, by the way. Denver is trading Reggie Jackson to the Charlotte Hornets.
Ooh. For, what was it, three second round
picks. So I think that's a cap saving move, it looks like, because that looks like a dump type of situation. So I'd keep an eye on him on maybe that's a buyout guy, and maybe you sign him for the minimum. I don't know that they need any more small guards. Or was that? But yeah, Cam Johnson, not really my type of player. He's got a bankable skill, and that's useful. But I've said all offseason, I want to get away from the unitasker type of players, and he is absolutely in that category.
Unitasker at $23 million per.
Yes.
Too.
So you're out also.
Certainly wouldn't be a top choice. Like if you're asking me KCP or him, and like we're talking about the same kind of contract range with KCP a lot of times, I would certainly go KCP above him. Yeah.
All right. And Dorian Finney-Smith, try to sneak in there and add that type of player. Again, we spoke about him at the deadline. If they're looking to move some of these players off of that roster, again, Dorian Finney-Smith, would that interest you at all?
What's his cap number again? I forget what
he's about 15 next year, and then he's got a player option for 15.3 the year after that, which that's debatable if he would pick that up. I guess it depends on how good he is next year.
I mean, his shot, like he shot the heck out of the ball for like the first 2 or 3 months last year and then really tailed off, and he's never really been a consistent, like he's had a year or two here and there in Dallas where he was a pretty good shooter, but it's tailed off pretty hard. Maybe you just get him back to a spot where there's a real good shot creator and a guy in Embiid who has gravity and that can get back up there. If that's the case, I think he's worth that money. If not, I'd be a little skeptical. I would probably have more interest in Dorian Finney-Smith just because the cap number is so much less. I think the cost to acquire would be less. Mm-hmm. But again, I would want to see what happens with your max cap spot, if that's still in play. I would want to see what happens with KCP. Like, I think these are all backup plans.
Well, and so that I don't know Denver's cap situation anywhere near as well as the Sixers, but I wonder if moving Reggie Jackson is trying to make a play to retain KCP.
I think Reggie's contract was pretty low.
Pretty small, but so that's why I'm saying I don't know exactly how much maneuverability the Nuggets have, and so that's something that I wish I knew off the top of my head, but I do not. Let's see. I mean, so Murray got the extension. That doesn't impact this season. Gordon, Porter, Jokic are all locked in. Yeah, I'm not sure that's anything other than cap savings, depending on
tax savings, maybe.
Yeah. Somebody smarter than me. You're the math guy. Get to it, calculator boy.
Look, this is our 5th hour of live streaming in the past 24 hours. I'm probably not going to pull that one off while on air. Maybe tomorrow. I'll look into it. We'll see. Probably not. It's another team.
Up to pick 49 now as we continue to roll on through this draft. And let me see, just to catch up, we already talked about Harrison Ingram, Indiana on the clock for 49 and 50, it looks like. And they also had a selection earlier in this round as well that was traded here. So on the clock for 49 and 50 and they go with Newton from UConn. Tristan Newton from UConn for the Indiana Pacers, 6'3", 195.
And just what they needed, more guards.
More guards. Get another guard in there. Yeah. So you got Tim Bontemp says Denver, which is bumping up against the second apron and still has Contavious Caldwell-Pope out there as a pending free agent, gets some significant savings moving off of Jackson's 5.2.
I don't think this is a KCP save. I think this is purely.
I think it's too small for a KCP save.
Because if you re-sign KCP, you're going way into the second apron, I think.
What's second apron? Like 180, 187, 188, somewhere around there?
You're supposed to be the math guy. You tell me.
Fine, I'll pull up my
But between,
spreadsheets.
so Jokic is making 51.4, Murray's making 36. That already gets you to 87. Another 35 for Porter.
189.4 is the second apron.
So 87, and that's almost 36. So that's 91, 117.
Hold on, I'm mathing.
123 between three players. Then it's about 23 for Gordon. That's 146. I mean, I guess in theory, you could sneak it under there, but it'd be very tight depending on what else they do with their roster.
They're right at about 170 million right now.
And that's with KCP on
That's
the
with
15.
KCP that's with KCP just not there.
Oh, just not there.
They would have to clear some serious space.
To be under the second apron.
Yeah.
Now, maybe they say we'll be a second apron team, and Reggie Jackson getting moved was
And you
more
just can't
about,
make any deals after that.
Yeah.
All right, a couple more super chats. Larry Love, how are we planning being the best team in the East? Do we have to wait to judge it again at the trade deadline when he trades for an aging Bogdan?
The real answer to that question is they're probably not going to be the best team in the East. Boston is by far the front runner. Yeah. They deserve to be based on what they've done up to this point.
So that's not great. No. You would like to have the most talent in your conference. But most years, the most talent doesn't necessarily win. Like, it happens all the time where it could be injury, it could be fluke, it could just be one team gets hot at the right time. The best team doesn't always win. You just need to give yourself a chance, which, again, isn't the most reassuring thing in the world when we just spent a year talking about this summer and electing not to really pursue moves so you can have flexibility this summer. But I'll just reiterate, when you have Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, like, you can never be completely out on the team. Even if they don't have the most talent, even if they don't have the best team, even if they don't have the best odds, even if they've never gotten out of the second round. I know I'm saying even if a lot, they still have Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, and we're just a couple of months away from watching those two really have some world-class synergy on the court. I'm never going to be completely out as long as they have those two.
Yeah, I mean...
And like Brandon Ingram, if they end up pursuing Brandon Ingram, he'd be a massive upgrade over Tobias. He's not perfect, but he's an upgrade over Tobias.
I think people have been too eager to throw him into... He's just the next Tobias guy.
Yeah.
I think, if anything, that's Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant is on a Tobias Harris type contract and has Tobias Harris type flaws. Brandon Ingram is a flawed player, is not a guy in an ideal world I want to be one of the main guys on my team. But he's worlds better as a playmaker.
Yeah.
He's his main problem is just coaxing him into a different shot profile and saying, Brandon, you took 6 threes a game and made them at a good clip at one point in your career. We need you to do that.
Yeah.
We need you to get back into the mindset and the approach that you were at only a few years ago that you've shown in the NBA. This isn't like, we're not going back to high school. We're not going back to his 1 year at Duke. Like, this is something that happened in the NBA in the right setting. And so you put him in an offense playing off of Joel Embiid, he would make a lot of sense if he can buy into that. I think the ball handling's better than Jeremy Grant or Tobias Harris. The playmaking is way better. So it would not be the end of the world. But we're going to see what they have cooking here because they have been strangely quiet. This is, like I said earlier,
very quiet.
The least likely outcome for me coming into all this was them just hanging out at their picks, making the selections, and waiting until Sunday when free agency opens to do much of anything. That I would not have guessed.
I might have guessed it like 2 weeks ago when we thought Paul George was a higher percentage chance of happening, but not
based on the intel that's been coming in the last week and a half.
I agree.
All right, 2 from Brian Pumper here on the Super Chat. Again, I'll start with the first one, which was real question. Would y'all draft Bronny at 41? That's over, no. to hold the Lakers hostage, I would lay GM would fork over anything. I doubt it.
I doubt it.
And especially since we got the Australia comments from Bob Myers that Kyle shared with us from the television broadcast. So he follows up then with, all right, fellas, I take it back. We drafted Ben Wallace 2.0. So there you go. Ben Wallace 2.0.
No pressure to our new friend from UCLA.
Or was he a second round?
Undrafted.
I thought he was
undrafted. Yeah, Virginia Union, I think it was, for Ben Wallace, undrafted.
Do you hear that, Bona? You are the next Ben Wallace. That's the bar that you have to clear here in Philadelphia.
Take some time, relax. Joel's got everything else. Once he's done, it's time. MBD says, did Daryl draft a poor man's Maxine or Poverty Joel? Here, is that the Cliff Notes?
That's
outside
for McCain and Bona.
They don't
they're
play
not
similar at all.
No.
Yeah.
I don't think either player is similar. I've seen a lot of this, like, oh, they drafted a guy similar to Maxey. It's like, did you guys watch either of them play? They don't
coming
play
out.
at
Maxey's
all,
one question mark was a shot, and he was lightning quick. McCain's slow, but the one known
they're
is
similar
a shot.
in that they're small, high character guys. But I don't think they're at all.
I think now, if his question was, have they drafted two players who can't play with your stars? Yeah, no, there's some concern there. But like we've talked at length about McCain and whether or not we think he can stay on the floor defensively with Tyrese. And obviously, like, you don't want to put a twin. I'm going to air quote twin towers because 6'8" isn't really a tower, but he plays like a big man. You don't want to put him next to Joel. So that aspect, maybe if that's your angle, I can understand. But in terms of how they play the game, no, there's very different.
It really is a shame that Brett Brown was not here for the Bona.
How tall is he?
I don't think I could
6'8"?
handle that. Yeah,
6'8" plus, I think.
6'8" plus.
With like a 9'1" standing reach and an 8'4" wingspan or something.
Because somebody told me to learn to read. He's 6'10".
That's not.
So I just wanted to, because I want to say a couple other things. That's why I was quiet, because I was trying to hold back from really.
I will look up the exact measurements per the NBA
I got it.
combine.
I see it at 6'8".
Right,
yeah. So
here, hold on.
6'8.25 without shoes. So if you give him an inch with shoes, he's 6'9.25.
And then 7'4". I know I said 8'4". That would obviously be wrong because that would be a record. 7'4" wingspan, 9-foot standing reach, 40-inch max vertical, which is nice.
So
yeah, Ronald, I'm going to say this for Devon. You need to shut the fuck up after that comment. How about that?
Yeah. So I already asked him, and I don't think he responded yet. And so I'm just waiting. For him to say something else. I haven't seen anything else because
got no tolerance for that.
Yeah. So So Ronald, fuck off, because we're gonna have fun with this show here. And while I do like that food, you can fuck right off as we do our show here. And he's 6'8", by the way, so I can see, I can read, and he's 6'8". He's not 6'10". So how about you go put some glasses on and figure out what size, how tall the guy is, because he's 6'8", not 6'10". So you can get some other stuff that I want to say, but I'm not. So yeah, appreciate it, Ronald. You don't have to watch our show anymore because we can do the show without you.
I muted Ronald a long time ago.
Okay.
I didn't see what he said, but don't repeat it on air. We'll talk about it after.
It's not something that should be.
Yeah, but people saw it and they said Devon killed that guy. So so fuck Ronald, and that's just the bottom line. Yeah, so we appreciate it.
There are a lot of things that we tolerate here, back and forth, trash talk. We have
and he would
a good
never
amount of
say
fun.
that to me. I know you wouldn't say that to my face.
What was just said there.
Yeah,
and that's why we always say Devon is the nice guy of the show.
If you get him cursing at you,
someone
definitely
to make him mad.
Yeah.
We're not going to go back and highlight it.
I like my job too. So I would ask Bree to turn the camera off, and I would whoop your ass right here on camera and just have a good time doing so. So we appreciate it, though. All right, we are at pick number.
Shahid with the super chat says he's no Ronald McDonald.
Oh man, so yeah, that's a good one there. So we're at pick number 52. And we missed a couple as things were going on.
Did we actually miss anything? No,
but just to announce it,
I think we've hit the limit of players who I actually have an opinion on. So missing them is not really the worst.
At this point, it's like, does this guy's name sound like an NBA player? Sure, sign me up.
Enrique Freeman from Akron. You watched any of his games? No. All right, he's going to Indiana with that second pick at 50, and Washington at 21. I don't even know how to say this kid's name. Let me see, Melvin Ajinka there, guard. Okay,
sure,
yeah, let's go with that.
Apparently, so there's a lot going on amongst NBA insiders because most of the NBA insiders are currently being locked out of their Twitter accounts. So
really,
yeah, Shams, Jake Fisher have both gotten booted from their accounts for all the tweeting during the draft. So I don't know if these guys are under suspicion for tweeting so much in a short amount of time or what's happening. So the advanced intel that we've been getting throughout the draft is fading. And now we're like the rest of these people at home are wonderful people who are just waiting for the broadcast to tell us exactly what's happening.
Or with Bronny James. Nobody else, only Bronny James, just to see exactly where that guy goes with the Lakers.
Justin Edwards still on the board.
He's still on the board. Yeah.
So
don't go to Detroit.
As I brought up earlier, it would not shock. I don't know this. It would not shock me if this is a situation where now he says, "Don't draft me. I will," and maybe we'll play the "I'm coming home" music, and
just Detroit. Don't draft him. Leave him be. Let him
come home to Philadelphia.
Let him come home to Philadelphia.
Ricky's off the two-way deal on a real deal now.
Yeah.
Get the hometown wing in the building, put on that uniform, and spend a lot of time with the Blue Coats.
I just saw somebody say Woj called in a favor. Woj called in a favor. Shahid said Woj called in a favor there with that one. So yeah, that. Wow, they blocked all their stuff. They can't use it.
Maybe the NBA stepped in and was like, hey.
Enough is enough.
We've had enough.
Habib215 says Detroit should draft Bronny at that pick coming up.
If you want to guarantee that he's going to Australia playing for the Sydney Kings, that's the perfect team to take him.
Oh, man.
The other ones, Adelaide 36ers, the Sydney Kings. What's the Melbourne team? Melbourne United, I believe it is. I know some AFL teams. When I went over to Australia last summer.
Isn't it Melbourne?
Isn't
that
they
what
say
I learned
Melbourne,
from Ben Simmons?
Melbourne, yeah. So before I went over there, it was Melbourne. Because that's how we say it.
That's how we say it.
And it's Melbourne.
Melbourne. That's what Brett Brown will let you know that too, if he was still here. Larry Love, do you think Morey made a call to the T-Wolves about Karl Anthony Towns? I know the team was upset with the last season. Guys, I'm desperate.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think Cat during that playoff run was pretty good, right? And they dispelled some concerns so when Derek and I, prior to Devon's arrival, did our big predictions show, one of my big bold predictions was Cat gets traded mid-season. But I think given that they were one of the best teams in the league all year, got to the conference finals, I think some of those concerns have quieted down. And now, like, the Knicks were one of the likely suitors, right? He's a big CAA guy. Mm-hmm. They're the CAA franchise in the entire league. And yeah, I don't think Cat's moving, nor do I think Daryl Morey wants to be a double big team. I'm skeptical that he thinks that's the way to build a title contender. I would say that.
And that's enough right there with Lowry Markkanen instead of going the Karl Anthony Towns route. If you're going to go with the big that can shoot, you go with Markkanen. Yeah, over Towns.
No, I would. And look, Towns can shoot. Mm-hmm. It's just like Markkanen's outlier level, and Towns is more of an all-around offensive player. But yeah, I would be surprised if we went the Towns route.
All right, so if we look at where we are now, draft pretty much over. We said not all that worried about the names that are left except for Bronny James. Does anything change for what you said yesterday and just the overlook of the draft, some of the names that you've liked, the spots that they've landed in general, and where they were, mentioning, of course, the Zach Edey going to Memphis, some of the surprises, things of how you would grade this draft out with some of the players that
Yeah, I mean, look, once you get to the second round, to act as though I am an authority on most of these guys would be a big stretch. So I'm less confident being like, oh, yeah, I love this pick or I hated this pick, all that. I think certainly, honestly, Filipowski falling to 32 and Utah getting him there, that's a nice bit of business. Like, one of the things that I value in the draft is a lack of trading up most of the time, because I think just having more picks and more chances is the way to go. And just, like the Sixers did with Tyrese Maxey, they didn't move anywhere. They just said, all right, if these teams are going to make mistakes in front of us, we will take advantage of that, but we're not necessarily going to pay a premium in order to make that happen. And so certainly there are cases where you justify trading up, but I tend to give teams higher grades around draft time who watches everything unfolds and can just say, you know what, maybe it's not the perfect fit. Maybe it's not the perfect prospect, but the best guy there will just seize on the moment right here. It's also part of why I was surprised that once Connect fell, that they didn't go with him yesterday. I would have thought, based on what the evals were on him, that would have been a classic Daryl Morey, just like, yeah, whatever. We didn't think he'd be there, but we'll take him. But we'll see. We'll see how their respective careers turn out. I'll say, as I said last night, I do think there's going to be that Laker fan bump for the first 2 to 3 months, and it's going to feel like the world is ending every time Dalton Connect has a good game for LA. But he is a good bit older than Jared McCain.
So Kyle asked the question when you left yesterday to Rich and I of maybe a surprise, best pick maybe for you in the first round, and maybe the one that you were most surprised about that wasn't so great of a pick.
Well, I'm most surprised by, I think, is different than wasn't a great pick, because Ron Holland going that high was the most surprising to me. I do like him a lot. I just didn't like top 5?
Top 5 to Detroit.
That surprised me. That to me was the most surprising. Honestly, this is going to be very on brand for me. I thought the best pick was Topic. Like, I think that was the exact right situation in terms of best, even best overall. You just don't know because there's so much uncertainty at the top. But in terms of a team who should take that high upside swing, I think that was the exact right team to do so. So in terms of place, in terms of assets they have and quantity, I think that was a team to take the upside swing, and that was the one I liked the best. And like I said, that's very on brand for me because I like taking high upside swings like that. I'm more than willing to punt a year.
Well,
punt that.
That was my call last night. I went with both of those there, just because, and it was the Holland piece because it was Detroit. Again, if you landed in a better spot, feel good about it. But just as we said last night, with the funk and the stink of Weaver still just hovering over the organization.
Like I said, the ghost of GM's past.
I do agree. Kyle said something I agree with. Like, De Silva going to Orlando is maybe the worst spot for him.
Yeah, I didn't get that one at all. Like,
it's very surprising.
Well, it just fits the profile. It
fits profile,
length.
But they've got.
I'm not saying it was right. I'm answering. That's why they. It just seems like that's why they did it. It fits their profile.
But they have an abundance of it, and they need a skill the skill set that he needs. They don't really have. It was surprising.
Playmaking around him.
It's hard for me. Like, when you're talking that deep into draft, it's hard for me to say like that was the biggest mistake because the opportunity is just not as high.
Well, then there might have been the mistake from last year where they took Jet Howard and he went early and you didn't see that. He didn't play this past season. Yeah. Are they trying to make up for a mistake from last season and last draft and doing that here? So that one was a weird one last year, and the De Silva piece was tough this year. But again, it just seems like fits profile, length, athleticism for what they like. And maybe with that cap space that they do go and get some shot creation to go with Jalen Suggs.
And the other one I really like, I really like Minnesota getting Dillingham. Yes. I think that is a right spot for him. And a lot of these players, especially in this draft, like, it's so flawed that I think a lot of these players, even the top picks, have to go to the right spot. And I think Minnesota with Dillingham was the right spot.
So one that I saw get killed by a lot of I wouldn't say the big outlets. The big outlets, when they do grades, it's kind of how I don't think well, maybe Derek is. You guys are not huge video game players.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. But anymore with reviews for video games, it's not a 1 to 10. It's a 7 to 10 rating scale. Because anything under 7, it's like, oh, you're trolling or like you're trying to get attention, whatever. So draft grades at ESPN, Bleacher Report, The Athletic, a lot of these places are A to C.
Yep.
I saw some of the smaller people who they have more incentive to just like, I'm going to be honest about the AJ Johnson pick at 23. They were like F-. So now I have not watched AJ play, right? Like I know very little about him from his time in the NBL. I don't think he played much there, which is like, you know, a guy who was a young kid playing in another country who barely played. Like, I don't even know how you properly evaluate him. I think he was a big workout guy. So I think there's high downside potential there. But I'll stay with, if we're talking about my least favorite ones, it's still Zach Edey.
That was surprising.
I still can't believe, like, it just doesn't make sense with now maybe they're trying to say we need to get away from the identity that we had built previously, right? Like we need other options. I just think if you want to take him, that's a trade back type of situation. I don't know how far you trade back, and you do have to find a partner who wants to.
But you didn't know the asset. Right.
Yeah, it's just it's a weird one.
Anton Watson at 54 from Gonzaga. He goes to Boston. And we also had Cam Spencer go to Detroit, the guard from UConn. So Detroit taking Cam Spencer from UConn, Anton Watson to the Celtics. What's the worst kept secret of the draft? Deron Holmes to the Denver Nuggets
or Bronny
to the Lakers?
Well, let's see. How quickly does the pick go in? I'm surprised that we haven't gotten the...
Look at them when they're war room. They're actually
they're like,
doing
something.
Yeah,
we really have to deliberate on this
JJ?
really hard.
Where's JJ in there? For this one. But with their first one, they did get Dalton Connect. Good one for JJ Redick to have that guy as his first pick at pick number 17. But what are they actually doing here trying to drag this one out?
Well,
like Daryl Morey, just drag it out here.
I love and this is not a shot at JJ, it's more how the Lakers are covered. I love the Pelinka quote that was like, oh, he was already drawing up plays for him. It was like, yeah, that's his fucking job. He coaches the team. I don't know that's now. Maybe look, he's dealt with other coaches. Maybe that's he's casting aspersions at some of the other Lakers coaches who have been through there. But I would think, you take a guy in the top 20, you might have an idea of we might use him this way.
Or other former LA coaches, not necessarily Laker coaches.
Yeah.
Corey Jones Jr. Entertainment with a super chat. We appreciate it, Corey. If any of Justin Edwards, Jalen Bridges, Kevin McCullough, or Trenton Flowers end up in the undrafted free agent market, I'm begging the Sixers to jump on it quickly.
I would agree. I think so. The two I would spotlight there are McCullough, who, as we mentioned, he's an all-around productive type guy, older prospect, but interesting guy. And then the hometown kid. Mostly, I mean, for the story as much as anybody else or as anything else, but I'd definitely be interested.
But if he certainly finds the situation much better elsewhere because he doesn't want to deal with being back at home, then go for it. Rock out, find a spot that's best for you and do that. But those are some really good names. And McCullough, again, Rich Hoffman mentioned him last night as a possible pick at 41. So for him to be available as an undrafted player. But we talked about that with Turk Smith. And
Lakers war room is clapping.
Talked about that he's talking to LeBron James. Talking about with Turk Smith and Ricky Council IV that, is that JJ? Yeah, it's JJ.
Come on, man. The fact that they're in the war room showing all this,
my God, I can't believe
let's pat
we got
each other on the back because
I can't believe he was there.
Yeah. We had him rated as a top 10 prospect.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Come
all right.
on.
They took the entire allotment of time.
They had to put on a show.
Yeah. But they based this entire broadcast around him. For 2 hours talking about him. They need ball handling and perimeter shooting is what their team needs are. Bobby Marks has as their team needs for the Lakers. Ball handler and perimeter shooting. How much of that is what Bronny James does: ball handling and perimeter shooting.
I can't even evaluate this pick on like basketball terms. If you want to ask me, it's a very cool story, right? Like,
Yes.
I'm glad that it turned into he's the 55th pick at the end of the second round. It's a basically zero risk scenario where Bronny gets to go play with his dad and LeBron gets to play with his son. It's been a thing that's been known as a goal for him publicly and privately for quite a long time. It's going to be one of the most talked about moments in basketball the second that it happens. But if we're just trying to evaluate it on basketball terms, it's like we didn't even see that much of Bronny last year because he had a life-threatening event and they had to figure out if he could play again.
And look, most players draft in the 50s never do anything in the league. So I do, like, to your point, glad he didn't go late first round. Glad he didn't go like top 15 in the second round because there's still some expectations with those picks. Now he can just go there, try to become a basketball player, and see what happens. And it can be a cool story for a minute as we all talk about it. Like we said a while back, I can't really remember this happening very often where a father played with the son outside of the Griffies. So that will be it went from something that could have, I think, really dragged on him to now just a cool story. And then hopefully we can then move on.
Well, and then you have Rich Paul putting out all these things that they're not doing, like two-way contracts. We're not doing that. So I guess the Lakers knew that. They were taking him. He's not doing a two-way contract. He, right now, is not going to Australia, at least not right now. And so I guess he's just going to be on the roster, dressing and being practicing.
Now, I'm gonna name all the NBL teams. And I'm gonna ask you guys, which one do you think Bronny would have played for? So they're the Adelaide 36ers, the Brisbane Bullets, the Cairns Taipans, the Illawarra Hawks,
Kyle's seeing all these names for the first time.
Melbourne United, the New Zealand Breakers, the Perth Wildcats, the Southeast Melbourne, Phoenix, the Sydney Kings. And here's my personal favorite, the Tasmania Jack Jumpers. Which one of those feels like a fit for Bronny?
I would want to play for the Jack Jumpers. That sounds like the...
Having been to Tasmania in the wintertime, I'm not sure that you... No, I actually loved Tasmania when I was there. I had one of my stickers on my laptop here. It's from an animal sanctuary.
I'm going with
in Tasmania.
Perth Wildcats is where he would have gone, but he doesn't have to worry about that.
You guys
now.
missed it's the Sydney Kings.
Sydney Kings.
The Kings.
Oh, that's true.
King James.
True.
The branding,
I was only half
branding
listening in my defense.
That was it has to be already set up ahead of time. Rich Paul had whoever is the GM of the Sydney Kings on speed dial. I can imagine.
Well, again, the worst kept secret, Bronny James, pick number 55 to the Los Angeles Lakers. So
Good
Dalton Connect and Bronny James.
Well, there goes McCullough off the board, by the way, to Phoenix.
Interesting.
I like that pick for them. Guy who can probably play right away, to a little bit of the in-between stuff, because they have the scoring, shooting from the... Presuming these guys are there long-term, because we've heard some rumors regarding Kevin Durant and maybe to a lesser extent Devin Booker over the last few days. So see how that works out for them.
We need to see how Bryce continues to develop. The rumor was he wanted to play with his son. Can he stay around long enough to play with both of them?
Well, what if Bryce is good enough to actually be like a real 15. Draft pick? Right. That's when you get into trouble.
Eugene bringing up a good point, though. Like, what's the report going to be of the play that JJ is diagramming now? What's he diagramming for
Bronny?
An alley-oop? Jump high, young man, or throw it high, young man. Your dad will go get it.
Just
maybe not anymore.
Release on every shot so we can get you a breakaway dunk the other way. Larry Love says, I'm going to bet the first person that gets mad about Bronny getting earned time to the media gets traded that week.
I think most of them on the team will be smart enough to keep their mouths shut. If I had,
they're going to help him out in every way possible.
Hey, you know how you can stick around for a while? Be a veteran mentor to Bronny James. That'll earn you some goodwill.
Larry also says, James passing that ball to his son, right? Well, of course, if he's open, he's going to try to get him a good look, set a nice screen.
Some give and goes.
Absolutely, some pick and rolls and that. And LeBron likes to pass the basketball, so if he does that, he'll kick the pass out to the corner to his son for an opportunity for a short corner three there. We've seen it. Look, how much time we talked about, what is it, Julian Lurie and him going into the family business? Well, this is a little bit different, but he's going into the family business.
On the LeBron front, one of those not really meme video, but like the LeBron highlight videos that get posted on Twitter fairly often. I actually sat and watched one recently. And even though LeBron, relative to most athletes, is still near the top, it is crazy seeing like 08, 09 LeBron, the athleticism that guy had combined with it, like just absolutely outrageous. It's criminal that he was playing with like Anderson Varejao and Mo Williams and all
Booby Gibson,
JJ Hickson.
I just want to say, that we've talked a lot in the last 2 days when we're getting to the point where we're talking about, can you believe that LeBron James in his prime was athletic?
No, it's just
really
like,
out of
but then you watch him now and it's
point.
like, okay, he goes through those same motions, right? Like he cocks back
I
the same, all that.
I got you.
But it's more of the,
it's a facsimile of what he used to be.
Not quite the rim grazer package, but
Yeah.
he's certainly not at that apex LeBron level. It makes me feel old, and I'm not as old as LeBron is.
PHLY Sixers NBA Draft Show presented by Rothman Orthopedics. With you here, the Sixers at pick number 41 selected Adam Bona from UCLA, 6'8" center. For the 76ers
6'8",
right now.
Ronald.
6'8" in the second round. So some front court help for the Philadelphia 76ers. Adam Bona, athletic, has a high motor, very, very physical. Just has to, of course, as a young player, work on a few things to certainly get to the place where they want him to be, where he wants to be. But again, Adam Bona, Sixers selecting at pick number 41. Jared McCain at 16 on Wednesday in round 1, the point guard from Duke or the combo guard from Duke. And we'll see, a lot has been talked about with this kid and the fit with the Philadelphia 76ers, specifically next to Tyrese Maxey. And they said, at least last night, they had him top 10 on their board. And they stuck to their board.
Crazy how many guys are top 10 on everyone's boards in a 60-pick draft.
And they went with them.
Yeah, I'm always curious, like, how GMs come to that. Like, top 10 when you draft at 16 sounds realistic. But if you say top 5, is that too far? Like, do they take that into account when they're trying to? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, especially with the 5, it's at 16, they're probably gone.
Yeah.
So you go with the 10.
But is that does McCain feel disrespected if he's only top 10? Should you have gassed him up a little more? I don't know. These are the games you got to play.
Yeah, the games that we play. Well, they have some games to play. And will these two young guys be on the roster? We still have a lot to talk about. 3 more picks to go. Well, 1 more pick to go because the final 2 were part of some tampering, isn't that right? They only have 58 in the second round. So
that's correct.
Yeah. So
because the Sixers,
the
one
Sixers
of them?
are one of those
One of
teams.
them. Yeah. So
down their pick.
Memphis 57,
Daniel
Dallas
House gave
58.
us some great moments, mostly in the locker room, talking about soda,
Dr. Pepper and
So here, Bobby Marks'
Cookout
needs for the Memphis Grizzlies. Center for the Grizzlies. Center help they need after taking Zach Edey. Yeah, big guy. I think he covers
Now,
something.
to be fair, those might have just been notes that were typed up before yesterday, and they
Sure.
just never updated them. would be my
Fair.
guess.
No, listen, I like Bobby Marks. I'm just saying the first thing that popped up there for the Grizzlies was center. I think they got that covered yesterday.
No, if they go center here, that'd be pretty
Money
impressive.
Mars hitting some pause emojis talking about Bona in the chat. So this will be fruitful for us on.
Well,
this side of the
how do we
camera.
change that? I don't know. Do we just call him the center? Adam, the center. That's what we okay.
AB
Yeah. He should change his Twitter handle to Sixers Adam ADEM.
to Bona forever.
And well, like you said, Derek, we've had what 5
Starts off
hours,
a little short, but you get him excited.
5 hours of
talked
basketball
a lot.
conversation.
Guess what? We
talked
got a
a
couple
lot.
more hours coming on Sunday evening.
And we will
everybody.
have a show tomorrow. We'll have off Saturday and then the show on
tomorrow.
Sunday.
What are we talking about?
2:30 tomorrow,
no
folks.
idea.
We'll be back.
We are
here
gonna.
at
I
normal
believe
time.
we got sound and advisory. I think
There
we'll be
is-
able to talk to new Sixers players as of tomorrow morning.
I do think,
Unofficial as of
mentioned-
yet, but
yeah.
So
You would expect that we will get to talk to Sixers players tomorrow. For
yes.
sure.
So what time? So last night I said 5:00 because that's what it said on our graphic. So, right? Was that it?
6:00 on Sunday, I believe. Yes.
I thought it was 6, but I thought we had 5 on our.
Oh boy. So we're there for the hour before.
Well,
It says 5 to 7.
I mean, you kind of expect that the rumors will start flying early.
I don't think so. I think we'll be sitting around going,
What should they do?
twiddling my thumbs. you know?
Well, the Sixers rumors won't start because they're really worried about
That's what
tampering.
I'm
They
saying.
take tampering seriously.
So they're
Nobody
gonna,
tampers.
so they're gonna wait
Everyone
till
wants to.
5:59 for us to hear a rumor. Is that what we're doing?
So
Especially-
we will have a spirited Connect 4 tournament starting at 5:00 on Sunday on the show where we all.
Fine with that. A little Connect 4. That's cool.
I was actually playing Connect 4 with my little guy this weekend.
Huh.
Yeah,
I don't know the last time I played Connect 4. It's been a while.
but it was with outside with the big
I hope it wasn't
Connect
Rondo.
4
He's apparently
thing.
a Connect 4 savant.
big one.
Is there enough strategy to be a savant? in Connect 4?
Evidently, because it was a whole story.
Well,
years
because
ago.
he takes it so seriously, where he has to go so deep.
I think he
into-
takes everything seriously.
Yeah, he's so
Yeah.
competitive with that stuff. I've seen that story, but it wasn't better than the one that we were playing with, the big,
the
one
gigantic
outside.
one.
Yeah. So that was fun.
Yeah.
All right, the
We talked
Memphis
so
Grizzlies. Ulrich, that's where I'm going. From Cameroon, that's where I'm going. That's it.
No, you're not giving the second last name a chance?
Nah,
Athleticism, it says on the screen.
Ulrich with some
I
athleticism.
think he's a basketball without borders guy.
Mhm.
So I can't say I know too much about him, but Masai is a big proponent of trying to find those gems from those places. So
Does this go to Toronto? This pick? Okay.
I believe so. That the word on the street is that they're trading for that pick that Memphis
All right,
just
well,
made.
Now we should start hearing about the
The
two-ways
undrafted.
pretty
Yeah.
soon.
So
Yes.
pick 58 to New York is going to be,
Ariel.
Ariel Hukporti. Hopefully I didn't butcher
that
that.
sounds good.
Hopefully I didn't butcher that too hard.
Sorry about that, Ariel.
Well, that will
center from
do it.
Germany. He's a center from Germany for
And he
the.
played for Melbourne United. I can say Melbourne. I did spend enough time there with some locals.
All right, Bree, do we have any more super chats? Don't want to leave anybody out. We've got Drowning Drowning in Guitars here with Derek. Where'd you go to high school?
Oh, I guess it's because I mentioned Dorney Park.
Yes.
Maybe that's why.
Okay.
Emmaus in the Lehigh Valley.
Okay.
So I could almost
Yeah.
We
legitimately
had
walk
two
to Dorney
super
Park.
chats for you
Well, I was
guys and none
asking
for
you-
me
I
from
was
Drowning
asking
Guitars.
you
I
where-
went to the alma mater of Matt and Pat Carroll,
Right.
Happer
Hapro
Horsham.
Horsham. I went to Roxborough High School.
Nobody asked us though.
No.
Just Derek.
Yeah. Yeah. Both me and my cousin went to Mikhail's dad. We both went to Roxborough. I guess I just
I
followed
guess
my
my
cousin.
basketball alumni would be Aaron Gray. Played for the Bulls a couple years.
He made the league. You know,
Yeah, he
that's
did.
Pittsburgh. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Aaron Gray played on that one Hornets team in, what was it, 2010? The Lakers ended up losing to Dallas in the next round, but the canary in the coal mine was Chris Paul and a bunch of nobodies took them to 6 games. And Chris Paul had 2 or 3 of the best point guard games I've ever seen in my life. Aaron
Was that
Gray
the
was
New
on
Orleans
that team.
Hornets?
Yes.
Okay.
We also had Ed McCaffrey, is Christian McCaffrey's son, but
Yeah.
he transferred after his freshman year.
He is good, but I think he's kind of a wacko now. Or maybe, no, I'm thinking of a different Broncos guy, I think. I don't know. Christian McCaffrey's a baller, though.
Yeah. His brother, he's a wide receiver. Didn't he just get drafted too? Like in a late round? Yeah, as a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wacko for the Denver Broncos. I mean, Romanowski was nuts.
That's who I was thinking of. Romanowski's the guy who's
Yeah.
apologies to Ed McCaffrey. I'm sure you're a real stand-up guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Romanowski was nuts.
I think he's a bit of a juicer,
Oh,
allegedly.
Yeah, he's
Allegedly.
He's definitely being portrayed in a program. Movie. Yeah, that's what he was
Do
doing.
you not want to read the last super chat?
No, we're
we
going to
have
read
there?
it. Yeah, we're going to read it. Drowning in Guitars also says, Devon, all love to you and the fellas. Absolutely. All love.
All love to you.
All love
Appreciate
to
it.
you, buddy.
Thank you
and
so
all
much.
love to all our wonderful people who've been here
And
with
Drowning
us.
in Guitars is the one who was saying, no, I got your back. Call that,
Yeah.
that guy out, and I got your back. So I appreciate it. Drowning in Guitars. All love this way, too. Really appreciate it. Don't worry. We hear a lot of stuff when we do this, and I've been around since 2007, 2008. So you hear a lot of stuff, and I just didn't want to go nuclear on air since we had so much to do. I can smile a lot of stuff off and just call it for what it is. But yeah, ignorance is ignorance, and it happens all the time. So I appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Yeah. So thank you too, Kyle, because you were about to go nuts, and we just
Listen.
I still don't know. I'm
we'll
really
tell you
curious to
after
find
the
out
show.
afterwards.
you said after the show. So yeah.
I
I
don't
honestly
mess
felt bad
around.
because like you guys were getting all angry and reacting. I'm like, I
once
have no
once he
context
showed
right
me
now.
what he was mad about, it all
Yeah.
fell into place.
Yeah.
And that's an easy tell someone to go away and never come back type of
Yeah. Exactly.
situation,
So well, again, we appreciate our.
I got to stop blocking people, man.
We appreciate Rothman Orthopedics again for sponsoring our round 2 coverage, just as they did for round 1, along with Coors Light. Of course, Rothman Orthopedics doing some great stuff there. Always talking about my ACL and my Achilles, which I'm almost fully recovered now with my Achilles. Doctor said next month, I'm good to go. Play some 3-on-3, get out there. I can already run and shoot around.
take
and stuff
Ronald's
like that.
ass down to the low block and put him through the stanchion.
Throw some elbows.
Some elbows will definitely be thrown. Absolutely. So we appreciate Rothman Orthopedics for, again, sponsoring us all week long for our draft coverage. A little bit more, we'll tell you about that as the weeks go along. But again, we thank Fishtown, the garage in Fishtown, for such a great night last night. All the people who came out to
It was great.
support
Oh, yeah.
us.
It really was great seeing all
Saw
the
a
people
bunch
up
of
there.
you who are in the chat every day too.
Yep.
Unfortunately, my girl Winona only got to see for a brief moment
Yeah.
during the show. She said she was running a little late after a busy day. But
Yeah.
Winona, Eugene, Rick Sachs, a ton of people that came out that I see in here all the time. And even the people who are not here, who are lurkers, who maybe don't watch the show or listen to the show as often. It was awesome seeing the community starting to build as we've been doing this now for 9-10 months. So
Man, that was a nice turnout, man.
Yeah.
That really was.
It was really cool.
That was really, and look, none of us really knew what to expect. None of us, none of you. But
Honestly,
we all came together, and it was a really good turnout. The broadcast went well. It was loud. When you have a lot of people in there, it's going to be loud. But it was fun.
My only real regret, I wish you had just a little more time to mingle before we got the show started. Because once you got the show started, like we had a job to do, and it was great. There were so many people there, we just didn't get enough chance
We saw
to
a
see
few
everyone.
before we
Yeah.
started, but they really started to pile in once we got going. And so we missed a lot of people. And look, a lot of people had work and traffic, like Winona had to deal with work and traffic. I'm sure so many others had to deal with the exact same thing, and they just could not get there for our 7:30 to 8 o'clock meet and greet type conversation that we wanted to have. So we'll see, though.
But that's an example
we'll
of
be around.
the reason I thank people every day after the show is like everyone's got their responsibilities and things that they do that they spend their time on, right? But
Yes.
they also make time for us to hang out with us, to engage with us. And so, whether it's Winona or any of the other, wonderful people who are here every day, who came to the show, who show up for us, we always appreciate that. So that's why I try to make sure I thank everybody. Although on days like today where we have so many people, it's a little more difficult.
Yeah.
So we save the thank yous for
It's-
the roll calls for when our voices are not dead after we're up to what, like 6 hours of shows in the last 2 days?
Yeah.
Nonstop.
Martian Lynch says, I've been looking for a Philly sports community. Thanks to the pandemic, I guess. Well, here we are together. Hopefully you found, well, we know you found it because you're with us every single day and we appreciate it. And it was good to see Gene, good to see Winona, Jay of the Jungle.
I missed Jay last night.
Yeah. We saw so many people last night. And now that you see what we're capable of doing together, the next time we do have something, we hope that many more of you can, in fact, come out and kick it with us. So yeah, that'll be a good time. So roll call is going to be tough again today. So we're going to
I'll do a few of these. And we also got one last.
By the way,
super
Rick
chat.
last night too. We did talk to Rick.
Rick and his wife Veronica,
Veronica.
who came out with him. They were. I won't dox them, but they came a decent distance to come hang out with us. So thank you to the both of them, and thank you to everybody who came. But Shahid has one last super chat.
Yes.
In his Shaq voice, get in the paint, Devon.
Most definitely get in the paint.
Barbecue chicken alert.
most definitely get in the paint. All right, let's do a little roll call.
It's not gonna be little because the little one on a day like today is still pretty large. And guys, we will fill you in on. We hear news on undrafted free agents.
I'll keep an eye on it
guys.
while you do
We'll
that.
certainly keep you clued in. It'll probably be on social or on allphly.com. Keep an eye out for that. Thank you to Slade. Thank you to my girl Winona. Thank you to Martian Lynch, Rick Morse, MBD, DBF.
What up, MBD?
Eugene Ross, Noob, 215J Philly, Barbara Carroll.
Hey, Barb.
Mr. Sandman, Prophet One, No Lex, Jay the Jungle.
What up, Jay?
Randy. Ethan Pano. Thank you. Darkness is in the building. Useful title. 3-time. SB Cole, Finney Chase, Phi Chi, Scott G, Michael Belfatti, the Prince of Porto.
What up, Mike?
One day you'll make that flight in from Portugal for a show at Garage Fishtown, or maybe
you got that backwards. That's not.
We
how
got
that's
Bimbler.
working.
We got Brian Knight.
What up, Brian?
We got Shahid. Who were all our super chatters today, Bree? We did have a handful. We had Shahid. We had Larry Love with a few. We had Brian Pumper with a few. We had JM. We had MBD. We had Drowning in Guitars, Corey Jones Jr., ENT. Thank you to all of you for contributing to the show today. DC Marley in the building.
What up, DC?
Al, the 2-minute warning.
What up, Al? Al was so mad he could not make it out last night. And it was like, dude, you'll be fine.
Al has shown up for us. That's why he always gets shout outs on the show. So you'll get there, Al. Don't rush it. Jaden Marine, the Hypothetical Man, Eric Schmidt, Chris Connors, Malcolm Carrington. I still don't know if you're related to that Carrington, but hey, you can pretend at least. Be our sleeper agent.
Sorry you have to go to Washington.
Flyers in 7. Hey, exciting Flyers draft tomorrow. By the way, while we're here, if any of you are still here and thinking about another event, the Flyers guys have a draft show at Chickies and Pete's. I believe that's tomorrow night.
In South Philly.
In South Philadelphia. So if you're excited about Michkov and what the Flyers might be building.
And then there's still that golf outing, which we will not be at because it overlaps with Summer League, but go to allphly.com/events.
6 to 11 for the Flyers show tomorrow.
There you go. So
that's a long
guys. There are
show.
a ton of names, so I can't get through all of you, but I love you all for being here. If you have not already, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live. If you hit the thumbs up button, we won't only be back tomorrow, we'll be back Sunday for a big opening of free agency show.
Shout out Jared McCain. Shout out Adam Bona. Shout out Bronny James.
Justin Edwards with the Sixers, by the way. Breaking news.
Oh, he's staying home.
Justin Edwards.
Philly guy.
Philly guys love being at home, man.
Philly guy.
Stay home.
Staying home. That's a great story. We will get to that later. There you go. A little sign off, Justin Edwards.
Yes.
Thank you to Bree. Thank you to Chris helping out on social and the graphics, everything else today. Thank you to Julia last night. Goodbye, everybody.
Renee. Thank you.
I got nothing left.
Talk to you tomorrow at 2:30.
We all silly like the mayor.